for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so we're going to skip agenda item number 5, which is the recognition for Miss Teen Cibolo Latina. Amia wasn't able to get off work today because she does work, and so she works until 8:10, and so her plan is to come next week. So we're going to do it in 2 weeks. Yes. Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, first up, we've got World Teachers Day, and it's going to be handed over to Miss Benavidez. But Councilwoman Norma, please proceed with your proclamation. Thank you.
Thank you for this honor. Proclamation, designation of October 5th, 2023 as World Teachers Day. Whereas the City of Cibolo recognizes the unquestionable dedication and exceptional commitment of teachers, and whereas our community's future strength depends on providing a high-quality education to all students, and whereas we recognize that the achievement of students is a reflection of the knowledge and skills of teachers, and whereas teachers spend countless hours preparing lesson plans and supporting students, and whereas we recognize the critical role of teachers in re-imaging the future of education, and whereas the City of Cibolo recognizes the importance of celebrating and paying tribute to teachers for their untiring efforts to educate and support our children. Now therefore, Mayor Mark Allen of Cibolo, Texas, does hereby recognize October 5th, 2023 as World Teachers Day. He encourages all residents of Cibolo to recognize, celebrate, and honor all teachers for their hard work, dedication, and sacrifice to the students of the community.
Thank you very much. And is Ms. Benavidez in the audience tonight? Okay, come on up. All right, come on up with me. We'll give it to her together.
All right, here we go. 3, 1, 2. All right.
Okay, thank you very much, Councilwoman. All right, next up we have Proclamation for 2023 Manufacturing Month. This will be read by Councilman, Mahoney. Thank you. Couldn't remember who I gave that one to. Thank you.
Is it on? Okay. Manufacturing Month Proclamation. Whereas the City of Cibolo, Texas is committed to promoting October 2023 as Manufacturing Month, and whereas Manufacturing Month is an initiative of the National Association of Manufacturers which seeks to improve the public perception of manufacturing-related jobs and industries, and is supported by thousands of organizations across the U.S. who host students, teachers, parents, job seekers, and other local community members at open houses designated to showcase modern manufacturing, technology, and career opportunities. And whereas it is the goal of this campaign to celebrate modern manufacturing and inspire the next generation to make a difference through manufacturing careers, give guidance on how to begin a career in modern manufacturing, effectively communicate the current needs of manufacturers, and show students, parents, and educators the opportunity, creativity, possibility, and level of accomplishment that can come from a career in manufacturing. And whereas the local manufacturers make up 7% of all employers in the city of Cibolo today, and whereas there are more than 51,000 people in the San Antonio region currently employed in manufacturing positions, and whereas regional projections show continued substantial growth in the field of manufacturing as the San Antonio, New Braunfels metropolitan statistical area is dedicated to working towards becoming the region of choice for manufacturers. And whereas modern advanced manufacturing relies on clean, well-lit, and climate-controlled environments, provides competitive benefits to every employee, including health care and retirement plans, and thereby makes manufacturing a worthwhile career choice for all residents. And whereas the City of Cibolo, Texas supports and joins in this national and state effort to help America's manufacturers do what they do best: grow their business, create jobs, and ensure that our communities remain as vibrant tomorrow as they are today. So now, therefore, be it resolved, Mark Allen, Mayor of the City of Cibolo, Texas, on behalf of the council and residents, does hereby proclaim October of 2023 as Manufacturing Month.
Thank you very much, Councilman Mahoney. All right, so Kelsey, do we have anyone from ACE and AW here
Yes,
tonight?
we do have Frankie Hamilton with Aishin, who will be receiving the proclamation, as well as one of our EDC board members, Patricia Kaim.
Okay, come on up. All right, come up here with me, Councilman.
There we go. One more.
Okay, I'm so glad to be here and represent Aishin, Texas tonight. Aishin, Texas is so pleased to be in the city of Cibolo. They could not have picked a better place to come and do business. It's been such a great relationship we've been having with the city of Cibolo. Kelsey, our great friend, we call and she's bright, jolly on the spot. So we're just so pleased. So there couldn't have been any other place that we could have picked for the people, for the the climate of here, and all this great relationship we're having. So grateful and so glad to be in the city of Cibolo. So thank you so much for the proclamation.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming out to accept that proclamation. We're so glad to have you here. I remember back when we did the groundbreaking for the factory that our governor was actually here, and he made a speech, and he said that, we'll remember this day as the day that started all this growth and all this expansion out here. And so you were the pioneer over there on that side of town of Cibolo, and we just couldn't be more excited to have you here and to be I guess the anchor in that particular part of town. So the future is very bright. So thank you. All right, next up is Proclamation for Community Planning Month, and that will be read by Councilman Bentz. Let's see. Okay, sorry. Oh, it got moved over to Mrs. Cunningham. Okay.
Community Planning Month Proclamation. Whereas change is constant and affects all cities, towns, suburbs, counties, boroughs, townships, rural areas, and other places, and whereas community planning and plans can help manage this change in a way that provides better choices for how people work and live, and whereas community planning provides an opportunity for all residents to be meaningfully involved in making choices that determine the future of their community, and whereas the full benefits of planning require public officials and citizens who understand, support, and demand excellence in planning and plan implementation, and whereas the month of October is designated as National Community Planning Month throughout the United States of America and its territories, And whereas the American Planning Association endorses National Community Planning Month as an opportunity to highlight how planning is essential to recovery and how planners can lead communities to equitable, resilient, and long-lasting recovery. And whereas the celebration of National Community Planning Month gives us the opportunity to publicly recognize the participation and dedication of the members of planning commissions and other citizen planners who have contributed their time and expertise to the improvement of the city of Cibolo. And whereas we recognize the many valuable contributions made by professional community and regional planners of the city of Cibolo and extend our heartfelt thanks for the continued commitment to public service by these professionals. Now therefore be it resolved that the month of October 2023 is hereby designated as Community Planning Month in the City of Cibolo in conjunction with the celebration of National Community Planning Month.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Cunningham. All right, Kelsey?
Yes, if you don't mind, we do have two of our Planning and Zoning Commissioners here. So Ms. Jennifer Grieve, who is our Vice Chair for the Planning and Zoning Commission, and also Mr. Terry Hines, one of our P&Z alternates, will be coming up to receive the proclamation. And I'd also, if it's all right with you, like to ask some of our planning team to just come up for the photo, if that's okay. Thank you.
Just back there. Okay. Here we go. Ready? 1, 2. One more. Perfect.
All right, one last proclamation. We're going to do Proclamation for Fire Prevention Week, read by Councilman Hicks.
Proclamation designating October 8th through the 14th, 2023 as Fire Prevention Week. Whereas the City of Cibolo is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting our city, and whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire, and whereas cooking is the leading cause of home fires in the United States, and fire departments respond to more than 166,400 annually between 2016 and 2020, and whereas 2 of every 5 house fires start in the kitchen, with 31% of the fires resulting from unintended cooking. And whereas more than half of reported non-fatal home cooking fire injuries occurred when the victims tried to fight the fire themselves. And whereas residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires almost in half. And whereas Cibolo's first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And whereas the 2023 Fire Prevention Week theme, Cooking, Safety Starts With You. Pay attention to fire prevention. Effectively serves to remind us to stay alert and use caution when cooking to reduce the risk of kitchen fires. Therefore, Mark Allen, Mayor of Cibolo, Texas, do hereby proclaim October 8th through the 14th, 2023 as Fire Prevention Week, and I urge all Cibolo residents to check their kitchens for fire hazards and use safety cooking practices during Fire Prevention Week 2023 to support the many public safety activities and efforts the Cibolo Fire and Emergency Services.
Thank you very much, Councilman Hicks. All right, so Chief Troncoso, if you could bring your men up here, and we will go ahead and give you the proclamations.
I'm gonna need to get, maybe if y'all can go to the back steps, maybe, like two of y'all, just to get everybody. Yeah. And same with y'all too on this side, if y'all don't mind on the steps. Or just squeeze in a little more if you can.
Just lay down in front.
Okay, that works. That works. Okay, here we go, ready, 1, 2.
Also, before y'all leave, just wanted to thank the Cibolo Fire Department for all of your efforts during National Night Out last week. Heard nothing but positive things about the National Night Out events and how it went off throughout the city. So everybody was very appreciative of the Cibolo Fire Department as well as the Cibolo Police Department for coming out to all the neighborhoods and, you know, we're running the route. I know it's hard to get to all the different neighborhoods throughout Cibolo. I also wanted to say thank you to all of the HOA representatives, including you, Jen, for putting on these great events within your neighborhoods. And so everybody had a good time and had nothing but great things to say about it. So thank you. All right, next up, agenda item number 7, citizens to be heard. This is the only time during the council meeting that a citizen can address the city council. It is the opportunity for visitors and guests to address the city council on any issue to include agenda items. All visitors wishing to speak must fill out the sign-in roster prior to the start of the meeting. The city council may not debate any non-agenda issue, nor may any action be taken on any non-agenda issue at this time. However, the city council may present any factual response to items brought up by citizens. Attorney General Opinion, JC 0169, limit of 3 minutes each. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a body. Remarks may also be addressed to any individual member of the council, so long as the remarks are about matters of local public concern and not disruptive to the meeting or threatening to the member or any attendee. Any person violating this policy may be requested to leave the meeting, but no person may be requested to leave or forced to leave the meeting because of the viewpoint expressed. This meeting is live streamed. If anyone would like to make comments on any matter regarding the city of Cibolo or on an agenda item and have this item read at this meeting, please email psimix@cibolotx.gov and vchapman@cibolotx.gov or telephone 210-566-6111 before 5 p.m. on the date of the meeting. All right, so we have 3 people that have signed up to speak. The first one is Dee Dee Dale. Come on up, Dee Dee. Welcome. You won.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Spin the wheel.
Well, I'm not here to complain. I'm here for Kim and me because we got our crosswalk.
All right.
And we are so excited. She called me and she said, you better look outside. And I'm telling you, I said, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I've been doing my crosswalk dance for 3 years, I think, but it rained.
Right.
Anyway, I just want to thank y'all. We just really appreciate it. And but I will tell you, I had to try it out. So I stood on my side of the street, and I waited for some cars to come. I took one step forward so that they would see that there's a crosswalk. The signs are there, everything. I mean, we're thrilled. And there were 8 cars. One stopped. And the only reason the 2 behind the one stopped is because they couldn't go anywhere.
Right.
So, anyway, but I thought about it when, you know, was it Houston that they arrested a guy for blowing through a crosswalk, and I think he hurt somebody or killed him or something. And they said that since the law went into effect, that there had not been any kind of, what's the word, prosecutions or, held accountable for going through a crosswalk when somebody was there. So anyway, we just really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Dee Dee. We really appreciate you for bringing this to our attention. I remember at the candidate forum, I think it was last November, you got up and asked that question to all the mayor candidates. And so, here it is almost a year later, but I'm glad it's finally done. So, yeah, thank you.
Extend message to me this afternoon as well. Thank you. Thank you both. Appreciate y'all giving us time to make sure we got it.
Oh, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Oh, we need flashing lights on both sides.
All right, duly noted. Thank you, Dee Dee. All right, next up is Jeff. Come on up, sir.
Jeff Deanstead, Roadrunner Towing. I'm sure y'all remember I was up here last month talking to y'all about bringing my business to the city of Cibolo. I've still seen no movement in shirts. I've been contacted by nobody. I've heard a lot of acronyms the last month or so, the CUP, the PUD, the MURE, and I'm not sure I understand it all. I've been doing my research, but I'm hoping that it's as simple as removing auto and impound storage as a prohibited use in the MER overlay. That spot for me out on IH-10 is going to be paramount. When that construction is done, that's going to be the place for me. I appreciate even entertaining the thought to bring Roadrunner Towing to the city of Cibolo. It's getting down to crunch time to me because not only do I have to move if this goes through, but we still got 8 to 10 weeks to get a building up, get fence up, and I've still have to wait for that to be done before I can apply for licensing, because you cannot transfer licensing for a vehicle storage facility lot in the state of Texas. So I'm just here telling you thank you, and I appreciate your diligence and trying to get me in here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. And, since it is on the agenda, I'll speak briefly to it. But, there's no better place, I think, than Cibolo for Roadrunner Towing. You've been a pillar in our community for many, many, many years. Always there to help people out whenever they get an accident or the car can't move. I saw Roadrunner out on 1103 just the other day. I think it was last Friday when I was coming home and getting a vehicle over there off the side of the road. It was a big rig. And so, yeah, your company, Roadrunner Towing, has gone above and beyond for our citizens and our police department and our community. And so we would be thrilled to have you here. And so, city staff can correct me if I'm misspeaking, but as far as my understanding of the next steps, city council is going to discuss it when we get to the agenda item tonight, and then it will be sent over to P&Z, and then P&Z will talk about it tomorrow night. I believe it's already on their agenda, and so correct me if I'm wrong, but so if you can come back tomorrow night and speak to P&Z and let them know how important it is, to have this restriction removed from the mirror, and that way you can get the ball rolling and get your facility up and running in Cibolo. So we're anxious to have you. All right, so next up is let's see, Stosh Boyle. I don't see him here though. Okay. All right, so Stosh is on the agenda, but he might be running a little late with the traffic. So
He's not going to be here tonight, sir.
Okay.
He sent me an email to read.
okay, gotcha. Okay, go ahead, Peggy. Then.
Okay. This is from Stosh Boyle, owner of Native American Contracting. He's sorry he could not make it, but he had an opportunity for work, and he needed to make sure that he was there for that. He's writing about the Nimitz Park land swap. Of course, he's a heavy in favor of it, along with most of the individuals he spoke with. He said he spoke with Chief Nimitz again, and he's very excited about the project and was very much looking forward to the improvements in the park and the opportunity to be a part of the project that is much bigger than you and I. He stated that this will be a large step in molding the future of the community. There were some concerns about the seamless transition and not going without the park. This is done on a daily basis on projects such as schools, hospitals, and many more critical path-type projects. This can easily be done with proper planning and verbiage in the RFP. build the part of the park on the ED side before any demolition occurs on the park side. Sure, not perfect, but manageable. Also, use of a long, thin property butting up to a major thoroughfare is not ideal. The property on FM 78 and FM 1103 is 11 acres, and the way the strip mall was built deems the property behind it unusable. A little creative thinking and proper planning can end this planning, and this can be addressed. The Nimitz Park land swap is not meant to be a boggle plan to ruin Cibolo. The voters recognize this and are excited about the possibility of the future. I know that my family, for one, wants to continue to look to Cibolo for our work and play. Many of the amenities were underbuilt and have been outgrown. No one could predict the growth. I am sure if everyone voices concerns and expresses positive interest with constructive remarks, this will be one of yet another project that will raise the bar in favor of Cibolo, Texas. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Peggy. I appreciate that. All right, moving on to agenda item number 8, the consent agenda. Consent items. All items listed below are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda. And there's only one. It's approval of the minutes of the regular city council meeting held on September 26, 2023. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to approve 8A is written.
Second.
Got a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we are 7-0 on that one, Peggy. Okay, moving on to item number 9, staff update. A, administration, resident town hall update, survey, and date. Mr. Reed.
It's on. All right, first I'm going to hand out a few items, and then I'll start on the resident town hall update and the ICMA PM magazine highlight. And if there's any extra paper, Mr. Hicks, if you want to just hand that over to Brian, he can take that. So, Mayor and Council, I'm excited to say that we are planning our 4th town hall. We've had 2 per year for the last 2 years, and so this is our 2nd for 2023. So what I handed to you just for our discussion is, first is an illustration of the council chamber, but we're going to hold this town hall in this room. For functional purposes, they'll act pretty much the same, the size of the room and all that. So just go with me that there'll be 8 tables. And then also I handed you a piece of paper that gives you an outline of the survey results from what we received by 4:30 today. Now, again, what we've done is in partnership worked with you to identify the topics for these town halls so that you feel confident that the residents are getting information about what's most relevant and pressing for our community. So based upon the topics that were in the survey, the top 8 topics, as shown on the piece of paper that you have in front of you, includes the FY24 capital improvement projects. That received a score of 5 out of the responses. Newly adopted residential foundation code requirements, a top score. Animal services facility conceptual designs, the HOA Knowledge Workshop Series 1 and 2, just to promote these HOA workshop series topics that we've covered, and to promote, do you want to sign up to be informed of when the next one's coming? C-Click Fix, FM 1103 Phase 1 update, and CIP program update, so all of our locally funded projects as well. City volunteer opportunities, and then the public safety facility conceptual designs. So it's not that these 8 topics would be 8 tables. We would, as you can tell on the layout, we grouped by topic. We had a table for quality of life, online services, animal services, building services, city council information and volunteering opportunities, neighborhood services, and capital improvement projects. So based upon what was scored, we already will be covering capital improvement projects. So the top score of FY24 capital improvement projects, we're going to cover that. The newly adopted residential foundation code requirements, we would put over on the table for building services, which is table 4 on the diagram. Animal services facility conceptual design. While it says animal services, it won't be at the animal services table. It'll be at table 7 for capital improvement projects. And remember, you were presented, when Mr. Huggins presented on this, there are conceptual pictures. That's what we would have at the table and some facts and figures about that potential project. I'm jumping down to the public safety facility. We're going to have the same conceptual designs that were presented to you when this came before you previously, and that'll be right alongside the animal services facility. So those will both be at table 7. The HOA Knowledge Workshop Series would go into our quality of life table. That's table number 1. And then C-Click Fix, we already have C-Click Fix on table 2. FM 1103 Phase 1, that would go under our capital improvement projects, and you can see we had that last time as well. City volunteer opportunities will be at table 5 with the city council information, and we had that last time as well. So is there something else you would like us to have represented at one of these tables that we didn't capture in the top 8 items?
Is it too early to have any feedback on the Cibolo tomorrow results, or are they still tabulating all that from the workshops that we did as a city?
I'm looking over at Kelsey Jordan Lee, and I'll let her speak if we could have material from the latest community input at this town hall.
For the comprehensive master plan, and then Cibolo tomorrow.
I
so
think that
way.
would depend on when this is being held. If it's still next week, we would not have those results in time. Currently, and I believe Ms. Simic is going to talk about the calendar at the end of the meeting, we are looking at having a community summit, kind of open house again on the comprehensive master plan, tentatively looking at November 8th. And so there would be an opportunity to provide detailed information as far as that results at that meeting, but it wouldn't be at a stage to have by next week, if that's still the date.
Sure. Okay. So that would kind of have its own meeting, right? Okay.
Yes, it would be its own separate meeting. Of course, at one of the tables, we could still have maybe, surveys that people could take while they're at this to still try to gather more input.
Yeah.
We just wouldn't have any tabulations yet.
Yeah, because I think we should probably try to just get a one last effort to try to get a little bit more information for the people that either aren't aware that this was going on or maybe are new here or just missed it.
Absolutely, yeah, we're always happy to have more feedback from it. So,
Ms. Lee,
Thank you,
I've got a question because look at the calendar. P&Z has a meeting November 8th.
Okay, I've got a new calendar to give to all of you.
Okay.
yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelsey. All right.
And
So-
we will promote the FY24 budget. The packet that everybody is handed as they walk in will include your budget highlight summary, and I think that's what the public really enjoy. And we can make sure that they know where to go on the website if they are just fascinated to read a very lengthy budget.
Thank you.
So, again, any other comments
Are
about
we
this?
able to also probably provide like the 9 roads and when their start dates are? Because I think people are really wanting to know certain roads when they're going to start in each fiscal year, maybe putting that in there just as well.
We will absolutely promote the other roads that are being built. And in my CM update, I'll tell you an update on the 3 other roads as well as the 5 other roads. So the answer is yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Norma. And I know, Mr. Reed, you and I exchanged some texts over the weekend, and it was a pretty hot topic in the community as far as neighborhood streets, and then the status of these road projects. So it's definitely something people want more information on right now.
Okay. All right, thank you. If you have any other thoughts after tonight, again, we regroup topics at these tables. And if you're like, hey, could we hand something out about, we are most likely able to accommodate that. So please, if there's something else, let me know. We'll proceed then, and we will have everything ready for our town hall on October 17th, right here at the Noble Event Center. It will start at 6:30 p.m. and will go until 8:30 p.m. Thank you for your feedback. Secondly, the PM, so ICMA, which is the International City and County Management Association, ICMA, it's Public Management Magazine, so this is a national magazine. It's an international magazine, I should say. On an annual basis, there is an award that's timed with the national conference, which was held in Austin this year, which was very convenient, so that Kelsey Jordan Lee could attend and be recognized as a recipient of a leadership award. And her award was Early Career Leader. And so you can read that article right in here. There are several awards that were handed out. It just so happened that they picked Kelsey to be on the cover of this magazine. So just know that for Cibolo.
Congratulations, Kelsey. I need your autograph on my copy. I'll sell you mine.
Just know that she was deserving of this, but it was after leadership in assuming responsibility over the planning department along with economic development. And so with that, I really appreciate everything that Kelsey's doing. It's great branding for the city of Cibolo to have her face on the front of this PM magazine.
Absolutely. Great job, Kelsey. Thank you.
All right, and then let me
Bandit Signs.
activate this. Let me jump to, yes, to the Bandit Signs. Just a quick update on the last 2 weekends. On the wrong tab. Okay, October 7th, they removed signs for now hiring, for sale, we buy houses, and Christmas lights. They did not see any Bandit signs for any home builders on that weekend. On September 30, it was a busy weekend. They pulled 53 total signs. Owners range from realty groups to junk removal and now hiring. We are issuing citations for any offender, and that's per our ordinance. Everyone's an equal opportunity for a citation.
Fix a road in no time.
Under RFQs and RFPs, as you know, the city received proposals for the city attorney services. You have a packet for that tonight, and we'll be talking more at a special meeting on October 24th. I'm looking over at Tim Foose, and I'd like him to speak to the status of the request for bids for Bolton Road, Dean Road, and Lower Seguin Road.
I know, right?
Evening, council. Just an update on this. The bids are now out. The solicitation is out on the street. Basically, we're using Bonfire. It's a new process where people can bid electronically. It allows us to reach more bidders more quickly, more rapidly, and it becomes an electronic back and forth instead of all this paperwork. It's much easier to do. And I appreciate Anna and her team getting that all put together. I know that wasn't easy, but thanks. The advertisement started on October 4th. We have a pre-bid conference on October 16th. Deadline for questions and inquiries is October 19th. Deadline for issuing addendums, if any, are required as part of the questions asked during all of this. It's October 23rd, and the bids open on November 2nd, and we intend to bring this to council for an award on December 12th.
And when's the last day they can submit the bid?
November 2nd.
Okay, November 2nd. All right, and so that's for all three?
Yes, sir. They were bid
November
as a
2nd.
package of 3.
Okay, thank you.
So you'll bring it to the council on the 12th of December?
December 12th, yes, ma'am.
And which 3 roads was that for again?
There should be Dean Road, there should be Lower Seguin Road, and it should be Bolton Road.
It is all 3.
Okay, so November 12th, we award the projects, I guess, and then
They will start right after the new year. No, when I
Okay.
say right after, I don't mean January 2nd, but they will
Right,
start
because
as
we had talked
quickly as
about
possible.
getting these done, or getting these at least started this calendar year.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So they're slightly behind.
All right.
While, Tim, you are up there, we are also moving forward with design on the 5 other roads.
That's correct, sir.
Yes. And if you would.
They already have a task order to do that. Council approved that several meetings ago. That is also in the schedule, and we should be bidding that out somewhere around the beginning of the year in January. That's our current scheduling timeframe.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Tim, if you want to, just stay up there for a second.
Buffalo Crossing street maintenance and striping project.
We are in the process of milling along Buffalo Crossing at this point in time. The team started yesterday morning. Monday. They started milling yesterday, and they are working on their way down that road. We already have a purchase order for the asphalt, so we can continue to work our way right through there. It shouldn't take us more than about 3 weeks, plus or minus, depending on weather. Obviously, if we get some rain and it slows us down, we can't pave immediately following rain. It takes about a day or two for it to dry up enough. But we are working diligently on doing that. They'll be milling a couple sections, paving those, moving to the next, milling those, and paving those. This way we don't have too much open at one time, which would be a bigger problem if we wind up with some significant rains. The other thing they're doing is that crew also assisted with getting the striping down on Main Street a day early, so we swapped out some times as we were working between 2 items back to back. We were trying to get 2 things done at once.
Thank you, Mr. Foos.
And following all the mill work, then there'll be a microsurfacing or such put on the pavement and then the striping?
If that's council's desire, we would do a full overlay on that as far as a microsurfacing on the whole thing to make one even pavement. We'll start the process of looking at what it'll take to do that and get that out for bids as quickly as we can, so it determine the cost. It shouldn't be that much. When we looked at it the last time, it was right around the $50,000 range based on the square footage.
I was going to ask because at the conference we were at this past week, there was a company that does that surfacing, and they said that Schertz has used them to put down that surface, and they've got a new one for concrete as
That's
well.
the HA5?
Yes.
Okay. The challenge with that one is they're not on
That's
one
it.
of the buy boards. So to use them, we have to go out for formal bids, put a specification, and put them together. So we were looking at a couple alternatives that are very similar to that are on a purchasing cooperative, which means we don't have to go through the entire bidding process. That is important to us, so we work this as quickly as we can. And I have met with the HA5 guys, and I've asked them, please get on a cooperative.
It's a lot of paperwork.
Um,
It's a lot of paperwork.
It is a lot of paperwork.
So I also want to inform council tonight, you have on your agenda purchase order for the Town Creek Trail. We'll talk more about that in a bit, but you'll have the opportunity to advance the design for the Town Creek Regional Trail, which is a very important pedestrian quality of life improvement. More to come here later. Cibolo Valley Drive reconstruction. There has been movement on the repairs made to the road per the punch list. Today there was some heavy rain, and I was at the Bentwood Ranch Cibolo Valley Drive intersection. It appeared to drain quite nicely today, but I did speak with Mr. Roberts earlier, and we're going to make sure that that intersection is flowing properly, as we would, now that the intersection has been repaved. They continue to make good work on their punch list. Separately, Chris Otto, who is here tonight, is reviewing a proposal from the engineer for the Legacy Traditional School for a solution on the sidewalk, and I described that in my last update to you. So as soon as he approves that, then they could move forward with the changes that would repair that sidewalk in a fashion that's acceptable to the city.
Anything else?
Nope, that's.
I've got a question for you on that. I noticed along Cibolo Valley Drive, further up at, I guess there at Bentwood Crossing or Bentwood Trail, whatever it is, Bentwood Ranch Drive.
Yes.
There's some extensive height between the sidewalk and the curb there as well, and that's why I see that, and then I see where we're going after Legacy, And I'm just wondering why it is for one, it's okay, but for the other, we're going to beat them down. I tried calling you earlier this morning on my way to Commissioner's Court, but it went straight to your voicemail, so I didn't leave a message, but I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, well, I think the difference, and Mr. Foose could speak to the other location you're speaking to because it's not coming to mind, is that the condition of the sidewalk along Cibolo Valley Drive before Legacy Traditional School began construction is that the sidewalk was flush with back of curb. So we had a perfectly acceptable sidewalk. When they went in and made their improvement and the elevation of the sidewalk relative to the back of curb ended up being what it was, and again, the initial installation of the curb and the turn lane was not to the design. It had to be torn out and reinstalled. The sidewalk that they put in became unacceptable to the city. So Chris Otto can speak to that, and Mr. Foose. Mr. Foose, if you want to say something first.
No, sir, that's that description's exactly as we discussed earlier. We have photographs prior to construction showed where the sidewalk and curbs were. When Legacy put in the new lanes, the left turn lanes, the decel lanes, the one challenge was that they actually elevated the decel lane so that the lane against the curb drained to the middle of the road and didn't have a way out. So when
and
it
Mr.
rained,
Foose, I understand all that, and I understand all that. I'm just saying that you've got one across the street from the swimming pool up there, that the curb is here, the sidewalk's up here. So I'm just saying.
I'll need to take a look.
Okay,
at that.
I'm just saying that we're
So, for example,
understand all that process. We've already talked it. There's been emails between Mr. Roberts and all of us. I understand that. I'm just saying that it's a bad look whenever you've got one just up the street. It's been there for years and years and years and years, and now we're going to pick on the school. I'm just saying.
So
we don't need to discuss anymore. I just want to let y'all know.
Yeah.
And we'll take a look at that, Mr. Hicks. I'm not aware of that is exactly, but I'll be more than happy to take a look at that with Mr. Otto.
So, for example, south of the driveway into Legacy Traditional School, the southmost driveway, the sidewalk from there going towards Bentwood Ranch will actually not be removed. There is a 3-to-1 slope from the sidewalk to the back of curb, if I recall what Mr. Otto told me earlier today. So in no way have I represented that they're ripping out all of the sidewalk. There's a portion that isn't acceptable to us. So to the condition that Mr. Hicks, you were speaking to, the sidewalk here will be elevated from the curb, but it's after Mr. Otto found that it could maintain a 3-to-1 slope that we said that's acceptable. But there's a portion north of that driveway that's not acceptable based upon the condition in the field. And again, our job is to make sure that we get full value for the public improvements that are built by private developers or by the city's contractors. And that's why we have inspections and walkthroughs and acceptance. And so we're not putting a heavy hammer on the school, but
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, because Bentwood Ranch has been there for 20 plus years, so I get it. I'm just saying that you've got one. Just
yes, sir.
All right. Thank you all very much. Appreciate your updates.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. So instead of going straight to 10, we do have Jeff here tonight. So I wanted to jump on up to 15J, which is discussion on the removal of the prohibition of a tow yard service in a mirror along IH-10. Councilman Hicks.
Well, I brought this back because there's been a lot of emails back and forth with Mr. Benson, myself, planning, Mr. Reed. And at our last meeting, I recall that Mrs. Lee had mentioned that cups were not allowed in the mirror, and then now all of a sudden they're asking Jeff at Roadrunner Towing to apply for a cup. So it threw me for a loop. There's been some emails back and forth, and I didn't think that was the route that we were looking for. We were looking at just removing the prohibition of tow yards, because I have a whole list of items that were definitions that Mrs. Lee or Herda had sent me while I was at the conference. And the last three happened to do with tow yard, tow service, an automobile facility, impound facility. And that's all he's looking for.
Yeah.
He's not going to be doing outdoor storage. You know, it'll be there for, you know, when somebody has a wreck, obviously the insurance company, it takes them a little while to come out, view it, and then they'll have somebody pick it up and then remove it or take it to wherever they need to. Or if our police department pulls over somebody on 10, you know, that's carrying drugs, well, they're going to impound that vehicle. And obviously the police department will take the drugs. But the vehicle will be impounded at his yard until, you know, a trial can be set and all that. So that's all I thought we had discussed as a council to make this happen, where he's on a time crunch, and I'm not trying to bend the rules or nothing, but you know, that was one of those things where in our UDC, the mirror, it just says prohibited, but he's not looking for outdoor storage or salvage, because they brought up salvage. Has nothing to do with that. In fact, he had mentioned to me while I was at the conference, I had a call with him, and because he had some concerns, and he says, by law, if he starts taking and disassembling vehicles, he'll lose his license. And I don't think that he wants to do that. This is a business he's been in for well over 20 years, I know. And why would he risk that, you know, disassembling, you know, and salvaging out vehicles? So I don't see that happening. So that was the jest to the staff was, you know, remove the prohibition of tow yards, tow services, impound lot, and that's it.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds real straightforward. Yeah, we don't need to be bureaucratic or make this overly complicated. Let's just do what you just said. It's my understanding this is going to the P&Z tomorrow, and Jeff will come and talk to them at Citizens to be Heard, just like he did tonight. Our I guess anticipation or hope is that they will, you know, see it the way we do, and then remove that prohibition from the you know, from the list of prohibited uses in the mirror, send it back to us, and then we could vote on it, you know, at the next council meeting.
We'll follow that direction. In all fairness, a cup was discussed at the time that you gave us the direction, and at the time I didn't hear any pushback, so that's why staff's been going down this road.
Yep.
I'll let council know that if you want in a MUIR district a tow yard to be a use permitted by right, then not only will Roadrunner Towing be allowed to set up a tow yard, but any other company that operates a tow yard. So just want you to know you'll never see these come before you. They would go straight to a permit process.
Right.
And if that's your desire, that's what we will do.
I think that is.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So, okay. So we're good there. All right. So Jeff, would you please come tomorrow night and, you know, talk to P&Z and let them know, you know, the importance of your business and all that. Go ahead.
I do have one quick question. So on this list of definitions given, I don't know, did everybody on council get the list of definitions that you sent out? No. I think everybody needs to see them. I mean, I didn't intend them to be I actually intended them to go to everybody, so we knew what everybody was talking about, the same thing. And I would also like, Jeff, I'm sorry. I'd also like Jeff to have them, and I think it's important that we understand what we're actually talking about doing, because if I remember reading the MUIR right, it doesn't have any of these definitions as what we've described. So Ms. Lee had to go out and find, you know, like definitions, and she cited them, and I appreciate that, but most of them were not even in Texas, right? So I mean, I have an idea what you do, but I don't know what you do. I don't know what you plan to do. I get an idea. I think it fits in these things that we could easily sort of say are able to be removed from the MUIR, because what we have in the MUIR right now doesn't even have a definition. This is how, you know, kind of messed up this is. Like, we've outlawed something that we haven't defined. Just let that sink in for a minute. right? So, I mean, I think when we created this, the language is bad, and now we have to kind of regroup and say, what do we want there, and is this an acceptable use? To me, it is, if it fits some of these more lower level, like, hey, you're going to tow the car off of there, you're going to take it back to your yard until you get told either to total
So
it
Jeff,
or
do you want to come up to the mic and
Yeah, I mean-
if you don't mind, come on up to the mic and tell us what you do.
I didn't want to bring you to
No,
do
no,
this
no, no, no,
in
no.
front of definitions you don't have, which is one of the
No,
reasons
so
I want you to
in
have
the state
them
of
as well.
Texas, licensed tow companies are broke up into 3 categories. One is going to be consent tow. That's guys that are picking up, can only pick up cars that are going to shops and stuff like that. There's private property. Those are the guys that are usually jerking stuff out of apartment complexes, parking lots. It's not, they give us a really bad name. And then you have incident management. That's us. It's the guys on the highway. Probably 60 to 65% of my work is law enforcement work. When I decided to open my company, I was working for somebody that just didn't provide the service that I thought law enforcement. So, we're not bringing in cars that we're jerking out of apartment complex. So all my anything that would go to that yard is initiated by law enforcement. And Joel had said something about there's some concerns about dismantling, and that in the statutes and regulations with TDR, I'm not going to say people don't do it. I don't have time to do it. Okay, I've got a fairly large operation. So the car gets in a wreck, we bring it in. We wait for insurance. A lot of people don't have insurance. It goes through a process, we dispose of the vehicle. On law enforcement, if a police department, and we've got some from Cibolo, if they have a fatality accident or something used in a crime, our justice system is not fast. I've got vehicles on hold that have been on hold since 2019. I have over 47 vehicles on hold right now. So, being completely transparent, there is a good chance that vehicles can be there for several years. They'll be segregated from the other vehicles. I kind of take pride in the way I take care of my lot. It stays fairly organized. As organized, it's an organized chaos. So basically, it's all for law enforcement. Those cars will be there for a period. The disposal period on a car is anywhere from 48 to 53 days to go through the process. We normally have auctions about every 6 to 7 weeks. So we're constantly moving stuff and maintaining everything.
Well, I'd like to say that before Mr. Reed got here, I'd mentioned to Mr. Herrera, I thought it'd be great to have a tow. I think I mentioned it when Mr. Huggins was Chief Huggins, that I talked to him about, the possibility, that because you have Johnny's Garage with services, UC, Selma, Livo, Arthur Converse,
Converse.
You are Converse. I know that they used to, but, and then you got obviously Converse shirts, and you got Cibolo. And, I know that you mentioned Mr. Reed, while you do it, you're gonna have a bunch come in. There's not that many. I know that you have Johnny's Garage, you've got Jeff here, you got Mott's, which is not, I don't think they're related to the Mott's that are selling.
Yes, it's his brother. I've known him for 30 years.
They do some, but they've got theirs way in Santa Clara, and then you've got a business up there, Yellow Truck, up in New Brunswick. We're not going to be inundating Cibolo with tow rooms. Just saying.
And
We don't have a whole lot of
appreciate
Muries
that.
anyway,
My
right?
comment wasn't we'd get a bunch. It's just they're permitted by right.
Yeah, I mean,
It could happen.
how many Muries do we got anyway? I mean, this is it.
I'd have to look back at the
Three.
map,
There's
but
3
Okay,
years.
so there's not a whole lot
So
of.
in the towing industry, I've been blessed. I have a fairly large company, and believe it or not, you're not going to find somebody that's going to say, "Hey, I'm going to go open a tow company in Cibolo." As it is right now, if anybody breaks down, if anybody gets in a wreck, they call their preferred towing company. It might not be me, and the first thing they tell them is, "Huh, you got Roadrunner." So there's a level of respect between us. I mean, y'all have already got a couple of mom and pop operations, half of them running illegal out here. And not that the city can do anything about that, but literally it's already there, but it's not going to be on the scale of what I'm doing. That's why I want that big yard.
Yep.
You know, I want everything to be right. Look, I've dealt with shirts and Cibolo for 20 years.
Yes.
And I tell you what, there's a couple of things that I thought would never impact my business. That's a pandemic and a city ordinance. They could literally shut me down. This is all I do. I don't do side jobs. I'm a towing and recovery professional, and I'm good. And I've done this city very good.
Yes, yeah.
So, I mean, it's like I said, I know there's a lot to this, and I don't understand it all, but I'm here to answer any questions, any concerns, and try to make people more comfortable about the process.
I appreciate you being here tonight. I think that there was just some, apparently there was some confusion.
I felt that too.
And I rewatched most of the conversation or meeting, so I'm still not sure, but I think we're clear now. I think the P&Z meeting, which we're going to need to happen regardless next tomorrow.
Right.
I think we're still in reasonably good shape, and I think that we really just need to get that out of the way.
Well, it's like I said, and I appreciate you wanting to. I don't want there to be a debacle like it was with Superior. Not that I would ever operate the way they did, but I appreciate what you're saying. Let's fix the problem, and let's move forward. Thank you.
Finally, council, for full transparency, we
Thanks,
happen
Jeff.
to come up with a setback from the I-10 frontage, which would accommodate a certain lot, and I think that's a 500-foot setback. If you don't want any setback from I-10, let me know, but
Oh, we
right
do want a
now,
setback,
It's not
yeah.
an obstruction
Yeah,
for a
totally.
particular lot that is in play.
Yep. Yeah, looks good. All right, so
Okay.
very good. Yeah, just wanted to simplify things for you, Jeff, so that way you know that there is work being done, and we're not just sitting on this. So we're happy to have you. So we're working towards it.
We'll be welcoming you as a new business to Cibolo.
Yep. Looking forward to the ribbon cutting.
I've been a resident here for
Yeah.
probably 18 years. I actually left shirts, and if everybody in this room and everybody in the community can look around and see where Cibolo's going, unfortunately, it looks like shirts is gonna get lost. I remember there's a time when it was shirts, and I could see the shift coming with the businesses and with the growth of the city. And look, it keeps me 10 minutes away from my house.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Jeff. All right, moving on to item number 10, executive session. The city council will meet in executive session as authorized by the Texas Government Code, section 551.071, consultation with attorney to discuss the following. A, legal consultation regarding the preliminary plat of Cibolo Farms, Unit 1, pursuant to TLGC 212.0095. And B, legal options to granting disannexation. The time is now 7:37. Jump up to 15B because it is my understanding that we do have somebody who traveled 4 hours to be here with us tonight. So we're going to go on up to 15B. These are the types of things that I just don't know about when we make these agendas ahead of time. So 15B is discussion action on approving a contract for engineering and architectural design services for public safety facility fire station number 4 pursuant to RFQ 23-35307 and authorizing the city manager to execute the contract. Ms. Miranda.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening to everybody. This item is related to the RFQ that the city issued in June. We solicited responses for selection of firms, architect and engineering firms to contract for design services for the public safety facility or fire station number 4. On August 22nd, City Council authorized the city manager to negotiate with the selected firm, Icon Consulting Group, for these services. This contract is subject to City Council approval. The agreement is divided into two phases, Phase A, design services, and Phase B, bidding and contract administration services. The timeline for Phase A, design services, is 210 calendar days and include the target dates of April 2024, delivering a council presentation to deliver statement of probable construction cost with 75% completion of construction documents, and by July of 2024, council presentation to deliver statement of probable construction cost with 100% completion of construction documents, as well as PDF format electronic drawings and getting us through the permitting process. Phase B services are dependent on the approval of the project by the voters at the November 2024 bond election. Phase A is fully funded from the 2023 certificates obligation issued earlier this year. Staff recommends approval of the contract with Icon Consulting Group for engineering and architectural design services and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement.
Councilman Hicks has a question for you, Ms. Miranda.
I got a question for you, and I guess those that showed up so long, 5 hours, 4 hours, whatever it is. We're putting this out for the bond next year. I want to make sure they understand that. Yes, we need the information so we can move forward with being able to put something out there so the voters know this is what it's going to cost.
Right.
Understand all that, but they know that it could be a couple of years before they get into Phase B.
Phase B is
two?
dependent on
Okay.
that approval,
And they are aware of that.
and they are aware of
Okay,
that.
just want to make sure.
Okay, so we're going to open discussion, but before we do, just wanted to just get a couple thoughts out there into the open. During our budgeting season, that we just wrapped up this summer, we did look at both the animal shelter and public safety facility, fire station number 4, as items to potentially go on the ballot in November of 24 for the citizens to vote on. And so the engineering services would, of course, have to be paid before November 24. I don't think they're going to do this for free, and then let us pay them if the citizens vote yes. You know what I mean? I don't think that's how it works. And so, it just concerns me a little bit that we may spend money on something that could potentially get voted down by the citizens, just like we did spend money on engineering and architecture for I think it was a lift station, something like that, over there, over off 78, and then the developer ended up backing out, and so I think we were, out a couple $100,000, and so I just don't want to repeat those same mistakes moving forward, and so that's my only reservation here, is that, but there are other ways that this could go, if the federal government, through our congressman, was able to help us through a grant or something like that, or just a federal program, then potentially they could reimburse us for this engineering work and maybe even the cost of the whole thing. So there are some risks here. So just wanted to lay that out there, but
Right,
I'll
that
open it up
is a risk.
to discussion for the council.
But Mayor, to add to that, I believe Mr. Reed and Anna had said that we could afford, if the voters turn it down for a bond. I mean, a bond is, okay, we're going to borrow money for 15, 20 years, 30 years, whatever it be. And the voters say no. I think that we're safe enough as far as the monies that we bring in, we should be able to just possibly pay for or downscale to make sure that we've got that, because we'll have to buy a fire truck, obviously. I believe a ladder truck out there, because Ison would require a ladder truck. So there's other ways, if I hope that the voters understand that, instead of taking the one big jump and having a huge cost all at once to take out of our budget, that we can bond it and then make incrementals and then pay it down quicker, like we have been with most of our bonds.
Yeah.
But we always have the opportunity, and like you said, and we mentioned it at the agenda review that, you know, Congressman Cuellar has promised a lot. So maybe we can go to him and say, hey, we're needing some help here to be able to afford. You know, we got Ison in there. We've got other projects that are hopefully going to come along I-10, and we're going to need the fire station down there.
Yeah, no, I agree. It is something that is necessary at some point in our future. I remember, I think I heard from dozens of citizens over the weekend that were really concerned about the status of these road projects and when they're getting started. And I had to explain to a lot of citizens about how, you know, north of 60% of every dollar that we collect goes to pay staff salaries, and that includes fire and police officer salaries as well as our city staff. And so, you know, to open up a fourth facility would also add headcount, you know, and so, you know, that, I mean, I'm not saying that a fire station is a nice to have, it is a need to have, but we got 3 already, you know, so I don't know, it's just,
Nothing down that far.
yeah,
That's a ways.
right, but yeah.
I'll tell you, Mayor, whenever Ison caught on fire, when they were building it, we weren't the first ones on I believe it was Schertz was the first ones on scene for that one. But we weren't the first ones on the scene.
Yeah.
And it's in our city.
Totally. Yeah, I agree. Like I said, it's not a nice to have, it is a need to have, but we just got to get these roads done before we, you know, before we spend money there. So that's all I got to say.
I had a question on the phase B services. So when I read that, and I realize this is on down the road, but a lot of this seems like you'd put the bid out and a general contractor would, or our CIP coordinator or somebody would do it. It seems like, I don't know, maybe this is the way it's done, but it just seems like we're adding on something that either the general contractor or our city CIP coordinator or somebody should be looking at rather than a phase B part of this with the designers. So I don't know that it needs to be discussed here today. It just seems, you know, weekly site visits. Well, I would think that, I don't know. I currently, we don't have a CIP coordinator, so that's going to be difficult. And maybe that's just how this is always done, but it just seems kind of like you're staying in a little longer. I mean, you got a general contractor that's supposed to be running this project. I would assume whoever took the bid and I don't know.
Just if I may, when you look at facility construction, you have a triangular relationship between architect, owner, and the general contractor. So construction administration services, you want the architect to stay on because with regular site visits as well as other services, they will ensure that the GC is designing the facility as intended. As the licensed architect, they will stamp the plans after it is constructed that it was built to the plans. When change orders arise, be it owner-initiated change orders or the GC-initiated change orders, it goes through the architect first, would come then to the appropriate city staff member, the CIP manager. That gets floated up to the city manager before any decision's made, goes back to the architect. The architect works with the GC to ensure that the change order is very clear. So I'm just highlighting some of the reasons why you want the architect to stay on and engineer to stay on in construction administration. It is standard practice.
Great point, Councilman Benson, but also to Mr. Reed is correct, because whenever they were building the new building on 10 for Guadalupe County's public works out there, I guess road and safety, I believe it's Kohler that was their engineer and architect, and they stayed on. And whenever they were finished, they came in and gave a nice big presentation of what took place the whole time. I know that we're paying for it, and not that we need it, but to Mr. Reed's point is it's good to have them on to where they stay on top of it to make sure that what they designed as an engineer is exactly what's happening.
Thank you, Councilman Hicks. Does anyone else have any commentary on this agenda item?
I'll make a motion to approve item 15D as written.
I'll second that.
Okay, we'll do a roll call starting with Councilman Benson. Ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you,
Thank you
Ms.
very much.
Miranda. All right, so backing up, we're going to go to item 12A, discussion action on the reconsideration of a preliminary plat of Cibolo Farms Unit 1 pursuant to TLGC-212-0095 and Leonard Homes versus City of Cibolo, number 5:22 CV-003111. Miss Lee, Miss Huerta.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the preliminary plat of Cibolo Farms Unit 1. It is located in the ETJ, and it establishes, it's 46 acres consisting of 145 residential lots, 1 park and recreational center, 1 non-residential lift station lot, 5 open space lots, and 3 open space and drainage lots, with 2 drainage and pond lots. The proposed preliminary plat complies with the conditions agreed upon in Lennar Homes versus City of Cibolo. Therefore, approval is required.
I'll make a motion to approve 12A as written and spoken by Ms. Herta.
Okay, got a motion and a second. This time we'll start with Councilman Hicks.
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Huerta. Moving on to 12B, discussion action on the removal, appointment, and reappointments to Planning and Zoning Commission, Board of Adjustments, Capital Improvement Program Committee, Charter Review Committee, Master Plan Committee, Youth Council, Cibolo Economic Development Corporation Board, Animal Advisory Board, and all other committees, commissions, and boards. Do we have any applicants today?
Yes, one.
Here. Okay. Come on up, Derek. Is it Derek? Okay. Welcome, Derek. Just step up to the microphone and let us know which board you are applying for and why, or how long you've lived in Cibolo and what your expertise is here.
So my name is Derek Ottman. I'm applying for the Economic Development Board, I believe, and I've been with the city, I think it's 4 or 5 years. So time flies once in a while, you kind of forget. So formerly of Wisconsin, moved down with my wife and family, and soon after moved my mom down 2 doors down from my house as well. So we've kind of set roots in the area. Personal experience, I'm the director of sales for a security manufacturer, so I cover everything from the Dakotas to Michigan down to Texas. I cover roughly $35 to $40 million in revenue, and I have discussions with business owners on a regular basis. So I handle a lot of different businesses throughout the area. So I've kind of had interest in volunteering someplace to give back to the community. And when Ms. Cunningham approached me about this, I thought it was a good idea to give back.
All right, sounds good. So you live in District 4 in Ms. Councilwoman Cunningham's district. Okay, so we do have an opening for that particular district. We did have Robert Teese serving there. He served for what, about 6 years, something like that. So he termed out. So he was our president at one time, and then served admirably. So yeah, we've had a vacancy there in your district for a little while now. So glad to have you on board. Anybody have any questions?
The only question I've got is the importance of these meetings. On the EDC, it's important to have like planning and zoning. You've got shot clocks and stuff like that, so it's important to make quorum. But it's also important to make quorum on all of our commissions, committees, and boards, because there's a lot of times our city secretary who works 12-hour days, majority, if not more than that, she stays here to make sure that there's a quorum to be able to hold a meeting. And whenever people don't show up, it's kind of a waste of everybody's time that did show up.
Correct.
So I just want to make sure that you're aware that this is a commitment. I've been on multiple boards and commissions and committees over the years before I became on council. and whenever I term out, as he's talking about, I plan on going back and serving, to continue to serve my community. So I just want you to understand that making this commitment, it's great, and I'm not trying to scare you, but it's very important to make sure you make quorum and be at the meetings, because otherwise you're wasting a whole bunch of people's time that could be doing something else, spending time with their family, walking their dog, exercising, whatever it may be, you know. But just so you know, it's very important, you know, to make this decision. Glad you're here. My dad served on many too. He's up with the Lord now, but we try to give back to our community as much as possible. So I just want you to know the importance of being sure that you can make those. I think it's Thursday, the third Thursday of the month.
So it's one time a month and it's at 6:30. So
Have special, but we also we like it whenever our board members, if possible, to show up at ribbon cuttings, and they have special meetings sometimes too. So
to address that a little bit, so I do travel a lot for work, but I have the ability to schedule home weeks, and I can just make that the third week of the month and make sure that I don't travel during that period of time. And my calendar is planned out pretty far in advance, so I can already tell you up front that there are 2 meetings that I have a concern with. In March, I'm going to be in Australia, so unfortunately, I won't be here. And then in January, there is a conflict that I'm trying to get out of, but everything else up into this time next year, I already have it blocked off. So, and to give you an idea, I know today started at 6:30, roughly. I was in the parking lot at 5:45. I'm OCD on time. So when I make the commitment, you have my commitment that I'll be there. Former Navy. So, yep.
Yep. Well, Derek, thank you very much for applying to be on the EDC board. There actually are, you know, quorum concerns right now because they don't have enough. You know, they barely do. So, you know, so I think your presence will definitely ensure that they do make quorum. So, yeah, I think you'd be a good fit.
I just wanted to share that one of the reasons I reached out to Derek was not just his experience and his work experience and speaking with businesses and things like that, but he's tenacious. His mom it's your mom, right, that wanted to move down from Wisconsin. He literally went door to door in our neighborhood asking people if they would sell him their house, like to every house, and he got a bite. So he bought the house that's like 2 doors down, and then rented it to those people until they moved with the military. So he just, it's that attitude. You can't teach someone that. So that was one of the things that stood out. So I will make the motion to appoint Derek Ottman to the EDC.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Welcome to the party, Derek.
Thank you. Sheboygan, actually.
Sheboygan.
Hour north of Milwaukee, hour south of Green Bay, right on Lake Michigan. So.
Thank you, Derek.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on, 13, Resolution A, approval, disapproval of a resolution of the City of Cibolo nominating a candidate to the Guadalupe County Appraisal District Board of Directors. Mr. Reed.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I don't think I need to give a presentation. This has been in front of you now a few times, so if I need to say anything else to explain this, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll
make a motion to approve 13A
Was
and
it
approve for Letitia
Letitia,
Sievers.
okay, she's agreed?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And we'll do all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Sievers.
Did I say Seaver? Okay. Oh, okay.
And it should be spelled how?
I think it's just pronounced Seaver, but maybe it's kind of looks like Sever. Okay. Yeah. She's one of my favorite school board members. Okay, so none opposed, right? So 7-0. Okay.
7. Hicks and Mahoney. Hicks. Okay.
All right. So Letitia Seaver. Okay. All righty. Moving on to item 14, ordinances. Number A is approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the city of Cibolo regarding a variance for 504 File Road regarding sidewalks per section 18.17.a of the UDC. Ms. Horta.
Hello. This is for you've already held the public hearing for this item. This is the ordinance which will, for the approval of that sidewalk variance, and which will allow us to go into a contract with Ms. Kearns for a future installation of those sidewalks.
I will make a motion to, oh, yes, sir.
One term of this that I'm not sure I really like so
Yes,
much.
sir.
1B2. I don't, this seems very nebulous to me. 7 calendar days from notice, the city manager acting on his or her sole discretion has reason to believe the owner intends to divest all of, then this all comes due. Wow. Little birdie told me that we think she's going to sell, and then bam, I don't know. That wow. I don't know if I like that. I mean, thoughts? Anybody reading that?
I don't think I have that. Where are you getting that from?
I'm reading it from.
It's in the ordinance.
In the ordinance.
Text
Oh,
ordinance.
I'm sorry.
Full payment will be due upon the earlier of. Then part 2.
I don't have that either.
It's on page
14A
2.
ordinance variance, right?
I'm sorry?
I don't have 14A in my packet at all.
I don't have, maybe it's on the, maybe she doesn't have.
Section 1, variance approved. Number 1, B, 2, II, not 2, but II, little I, little I.
Yeah, it's the attached ordinance.
Am I the only one that has the packet?
I think you're the only one viewing it digitally.
It should be, because it's in, you don't have the ordinance?
I go from 13A to approval, disapproval of the ordinance.
It's at the,
With Mr. Smith.
Yeah.
That's what I've got. Just saying. And then the next one is for the city ordinance for Stedman to, look at
Anywho. I feel that's pretty nebulous, kind of a, yeah. The city manager decides he feels like something's about to happen, so we want the money. I just, it feels quasi wrong.
What page is that?
I don't know. I don't have a page.
It's,
Page
thank
2 of the
you.
ordinance.
Thank
Can you read it aloud if you don't mind so we can all hear it?
Is it, what section also?
It's section 1, variance approved.
Okay, got it.
Under part 1, then there's B, payment will be due upon the earlier of, and then little I, little I.
Got it.
7 calendar days from notice that city manager, acting in his or her sole discretion, has reason to believe owner intends to divest its all or part of its ownership interest in the subject property and provides notice to owner, or, and then there's immediately upon the owner divesting.
This was drafted by our city attorney's office.
I'm just reading that saying, I mean, that's, wow.
Aggressive.
What's that?
That's pretty aggressive. In my opinion.
I mean, I just think that's, I don't like that. And if we're going to go down that route, then I would make a motion to just provide, to grant a variance and be done with it, because I think that is, I don't think that'll hold up in any court where a city manager just wakes up one day and says, hey, you know what, at my sole discretion, I want the money now because I think you're about to divest. I just think that's weird.
If council wants to approach that differently, then you could enter that the property's listed on the MLS for sale or other listing for sale. Or
Has reason to believe. You'd have to have a reason to believe that it's being sold.
Well, that should be laid out, because otherwise, the city manager on sole discretion would say, I have reason to believe she's going to sell it, because little birdie
So
Well, you're providing notice to them saying, are you selling it?
But I don't think you can just say, on my sole discretion, I heard that she's gonna sell, so I said, I want to know.
Does the word has require tangible evidence?
Has reason to believe that the owner intends to divest their ownership interest of the subject property and provides notice to the owner. So the city manager sees a sign in the yard for sale, sends her a letter. Are you selling your property? You need to put your money up because you got this variance. That's what it's talking about. You have to give the notice. You can't just say, here, put your money up.
Why don't we just attach it to the title or something like that? You know, if
Well,
when
or-
there is a sale, like it has to be paid, just like, you know, like a lien, right?
Or what if we just change the wording a little bit to say, and the city provides notice to the owner to confirm. Because it just says, and provides notice to owner of what? Notice of what?
Yeah.
Notice to pay? Yeah. It's that notice is very ambiguous there to me. It's a notice of what? You're selling it, we want the money right now?
Intent to sell.
I'm not sure that she read it. No, I'm not.
No,
I'm not
usually-
sure if she
Usually
has.
be approved by council and
Yes.
then submitted to
Yes.
her for her to review with her legal counsel.
Do we want to delay this one? It doesn't sound like it's ready for prime time, right?
But it's delaying her opening her business, and so that's problematic, so I don't.
So you're saying provides notice to owner to confirm intent to divest?
Yeah, something like that. I think something that just clarifies what that notice is.
Well, that's after it's sold. Immediately upon the owner divesting itself, so we're at the sale now. Right.
Like if we see a sign in the yard, we can say, hey, are you selling? And they can say, yeah, we're selling. And then we can say, okay, you want to pay us now?
Well, you just confirm that they're selling,
Yeah.
and then you remind them of number 3. Because
Yeah.
number 3 is gonna happen when they do sell. So we can add in the verbiage to confirm intent to divest ownership interest.
I think at least, no.
No, it's discussion.
Discussion. He was about to, and you stopped him.
Brought down the hammer.
What do y'all want to do?
I mean, I'm not in love with the wording. I think that adding in the specification on the notice, what the notice entails, helps quite a bit, and it makes it less.
I like what Molly had said.
Yeah.
But we need to make that same motion.
Yes.
With the additional change to, or with the amendment to that section, you can just make the motion with the amendment to section 1(1)(b)(2).
1(1)(b)(2).
And what's the amendment to that section? Do you have
To
the verbiage?
confirm Intent to divest ownership interest.
Got that, Katie. Okay, well, Katie's writing it down, so it sounds like she's going to make the motion, so we'll wait on that. Yeah, 14A.
I make the motion to approve 14A with the amendment to the ordinance to section 1.1(b)(2) to add to confirm intent to divest ownership or interest.
Okay, we'll do a roll call, starting with Councilman Hicks.
Aye.
Aye.
6-1. Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Huerta. Moving on to 14B, approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the city of Cibolo amending the city's fee schedule for fiscal year 2024. Miss Miranda.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an extension of our budget discussions. This was on the last budget agenda, and we just missed the time on that one. The only change that was made from the budget discussions that we had was on page 21 and 27. We did add an equipment charge for the quick response vehicle for the fire department, and the rental fee and the deposit for rental of fire department number 2 training room and the city annex community room.
What's the charge on that?
For the rental of the rooms, it is $25 rental fee and $100 deposit. The deposit is
$25.
refundable after final inspection.
How many hours is that?
4-hour increment.
That works for City Hall Annex or the fire station number 2?
Fire station number 2
Okay.
training room.
Okay, with $100 deposit. Okay. Do we have any questions on this one? Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to approve 14B as written.
Okay, I got a motion made by Councilwoman Cunningham, a second by Councilman Hetzel. We'll start with Councilman Benson.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, ayes have it, 5-2.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Miranda. Moving on to 14C, approval disapproval of an ordinance of the City of Cibolo concerning an amendment to Chapter 2 of the city's Code of Ordinances to remove the reference of one member from the Street and Drainage Committee from the UDC. Chief Huggins.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So during a recent city ordinance subcommittee meeting, we found that there's a reference to a Streets and Drainage Committee member in our Unified Development Code Committee. That particular committee was disbanded or dissolved by the City Council in May of 2016. So we're recommending that we amend Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances to remove that reference to the Streets and Drainage Committee member, and then add either an additional Planning and Zoning Commission member or another Board of Adjustment member instead.
So we've done away with the streets and drainage, and so we're wanting to add just one member to one of...
Just swap them. Otherwise, you end up with 6 people on the board. Take the Streets and Drainage Committee member off of the ordinance, and then add either a Planning and Zoning member or a Board of Adjustment member to replace that person, so that you still have 7 members on the board.
Okay.
I mean, I kind of like the Streets and Drainage Board. I mean, I wish we could get that band back together and do that. That sounds like
There was
great
a lot
board.
of people disappointed. My dad was on that one when they disbanded it, but
Yeah.
and Miss Walker was. There's a lot of people that were a little
Yeah,
upset when
Mrs.,
they did that.
Yeah, also, who else? Judy Parker was on
Miss
that. And she was
Parker
real
was.
upset that they disbanded it. So, yeah, I think we ought to get the band back together and do that board again.
Well, talk to Peggy about that one.
Come on, Peggy. Come on, let's do Streets and
They want you to get the band back together, Peggy.
He wants you to get the band back, the streets and drainage back. Just one more meeting a month.
One more tour. What's
Yeah.
one more? Yeah. Well, I don't know. We should look at it. But yeah, for this purposes, I mean, I don't know. What do y'all want to do? Doesn't matter to me.
I'll second that.
Okay, got a motion and a second. We'll start with Councilman Nix.
Aye.
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 Ayes have it. 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chief Huggins. All right, moving on to 15A, discussion action on the Nemitz Park Land Exchange, Letter of Intent, LOI, Miss Lee. And so we do have one board member from EDC, Marcus Mattingly, and he did come out to join us tonight. So if anybody has any questions, Marcus can come to the podium. Kelsey.
Absolutely. Yes, so not to belabor this has been a very time-intensive and a lot of meetings spent on developing this letter of intent with the subcommittee. Thank you for your time, and then for the full council, the full parks, and the full EDC who all participated in this. So before you is the result after our last joint subcommittee meeting on September 25th. There were no changes requested to the LOI at the conclusion of that meeting, and so what you have before you is a draft for your consideration. The Economic Development Corporation did already approve it in August at its meeting, so now it would go to City Council for approval. If Council does approve it tonight, then our next steps per our process would be to go out and do working on the letter contract, finalizing title information, doing surveys, and again, fleshing out some of those finer details that were brought up during the LOI discussion. And as you mentioned, we do have EDC Board President Marcus Mattingly here if there's any questions specific to the EDC.
Thank you very much, Kelsey. And so, you know, I don't want to have a rehash of the meeting we had a couple Mondays ago. I think that we did cover a lot of ground in that meeting a few weeks ago, and I just want to remind everybody on council that this letter of intent is non-binding, and that it is just allows them, the EDC, as well as city staff, to move forward with some planning and some evaluations and things of that nature. So, you know, the map isn't set in stone. Everything is subject to change as far as, you know, the way it looks and you know, what the park will have and all that. So, Marcus, did you want to come and say a few words real quick about this item? Okay. Just two or 3 minutes. Yeah, we're not going to do like I said, we're not going to rehash of a couple Monday nights.
Yeah, 3 minutes on the board, Peggy.
Yep. All right.
No, I'm kidding.
Starting now.
Good
Starting now.
evening, Mayor and Council. As Ms. Lee said a second ago at the previous meeting, the meeting that we had before, we did hash out a lot of questions, and I'm here to field any questions that you might have that came out of that meeting. Right, as far as the EDC and my personal opinion, that this is a good opportunity for the city and also for the EDC to actually generate and create something for the city of Cibolo citizens to gather and actually have a centric place to, you know, have a good time. So, but again, not to rehash the past. Is there any questions of me as far as the EDC? And I do want to reiterate that this letter of intent is non-binding. There are a few things that the EDC will investigate, right, as far as viability of the actual land exchange, as I already mentioned before. So there will be a few things that we will incur as a board, and we will make sure moving forward that it'll be completely transparent. We are not a commercial entity like other builders out there. We are the EDC. We are arm of the city. Right, so I just wanted to reiterate those things while you guys are making your consideration to approve the LOI or disapprove it. So, but I won't say any more. That was my 3 minutes. If you got any questions.
Okay, just wanted to reiterate that, you know, it is non-binding.
As of right now, that's correct.
And I know that there was some concern about the title of the document as far as letter of intent, and so I did have a conversation with Mr. Reed about that. I did inquire about potentially changing it to, you know, memorandum of agreement or memorandum of understanding, but I believe what Mr. Reed told me was that the words letter of intent is actually the least, I forget the word you used, but the least intense.
Obligated,
yeah,
right? Letter of intent is actually better than a memorandum of agreement because that actually
So
insinuates an agreement.
Correct, yeah. Right. So I think our city attorney can confirm that. Okay, so there you go. So actually changing it to a memorandum of understanding or memorandum of agreement would actually
make it more binding.
More binding, right?
That's
exactly.
correct.
So yeah, this is a exploratory effort for us to, you know, to have a say as far as council members EDC members, in further refining the proposed project as far as the design and all that. So this just gives us a vehicle to continue further with the discussions and then see if it makes sense.
Yes,
Well-
yes.
I'm gonna have to say this it's very disheartening because at the end of that meeting, when you got a staff member that sits there and says we purposely left out, you said transparency a few minutes ago, Mr. Mattingly. And I'm not pointing fingers at you. I'm just saying that's not very transparent whenever you had somebody that says we purposely left out information.
Yeah.
Hold on.
No,
Let me
listening.
speak. And I
Sure,
know
of
you like to
course.
start
Absolutely.
over
No, of
talking
course.
people, but I'm just telling you, that's very disturbing for me because I've been doing nothing but asking since this project came up as a thought. Okay? What is it going to cost? What is it going to cost? Who's going to pay for it?
Sure.
I mean, that's the one thing that I keep asking because why should my citizens who, yeah, they voted, but then they don't understand, oh, well, we voted for something, but now we're going to have to spend $4 million to redo the park. I don't think that was part of what my citizens said, oh, well, I thought it was just this and that. I'm just getting at, it's very disturbing for me, and I can't go forward with this because when I'm purposely told, I mean, whenever we're trying to make a decision that very night, a month plus ago, and I get told afterwards that purposely withheld information, I just can't move forward with this. I mean, it's disturbing.
Sure.
And I'm going to tell you, being in the military, you know, they withhold information. You're like, look, we just led our guys into war, and they just got all whacked because they withheld information. Not saying that that's going to happen here, but come on.
Agreed. I mean, as far as my first intention or my first understanding of that transaction was, it was unintentional, right? Again, Councilman Hicks, I think that particular instance wasn't malicious. There was no malicious intent there. She legitimately, and it was my understanding that, she provided those documents, which again, it was budgetary documents for you guys to make the decisions originally. So, and I know what you're referencing, right? But I'll let you know, though, I mean, as far as, and again, this agreement is between the EDCs, not between staff members, right? It's between the council
I understand
and EDC.
that.
And I'm letting you know, Councilman Hicks, that it's going to be full transparency as far as what the EDC can do and if this is actually a viable project. Now, again, we're looking at the very first step here, right? As we said, this is just a letter of intent so we can explore the idea further and see if it's something that we can actually make happen, right? Now, I don't want to put anybody in a position to make a decision without having all the facts, right? And so you might be right. I mean, having a new park might be $4 million, but we already know that, not getting all the details, that park does need work, and there's a lot.
All of our parks need work.
Of course,
Every
agreed,
last one.
Agreed,
Of them
and I
do.
think this is an opportunity where we don't want to lose that opportunity cost, if you will, to explore further. And the EDC has already invested money to do the designs, preliminary designs, and we are willing to invest more money to go look at the surveys and see if there's things that are going to actually preclude us, right? So at this point, and not to really get too deep because I know I only got 3 minutes, right? I just want to let you know, moving forward, I'll make sure that this whole process is transparent. If you guys have questions, I'll be open to answer those questions in the board, so.
Okay, hold on, Councilwoman Cunningham has a
I just
question.
had a comment. So the more I think about this, the more I think that having a subcommittee was a good idea for the initial letter of intent. I think we kind of got the big things out of the way. But moving forward, if this letter of intent does go through, I would really like to see another full meeting. I wasn't there, so I missed the fun. But I would like to see another full meeting like that, kind of like what we did at our comprehensive plan committee, where we had the big maps and people were drawing on the maps. One of the questions that came up about the trees was not something that was raised at any point during the subcommittee meetings. And so when we saw the map of the trees there, that made me start thinking, well, can we move the road so we don't have to tear down as many trees because they're right along the road? Or can we put one lane on one side of the trees, another lane on the other side? So I think that if we all came together with like a map of the layout and drew it out, that may at least give guidance to the design team, whoever the engineer, the architect is for the project, so we can save as many trees as possible. We can kind of fit those amenities. Because in our subcommittee meetings, we got that map with the, I don't know where I put it, but the map with the layout of the park with the different things.
Yes.
Was like our last meeting, I think, or second to last meeting that we got.
It's actually this. Who's the city's engineer? Well, I'm sorry. What's your company's name, sir?
Mr. Otto.
Yeah.
Engineering design. Yes, exactly. So with all, and you're right, with all the amenities that were originally sort of portrayed to the city engineers or to that company, and that was just an initial design, right? I mean, again, nothing is really set in stone here, right?
So
I mean,
think that there's a lot of opportunity there, and I think that a letter of intent lets us explore it in more detail rather than just a subcommittee coming together. I asked for this drawing because I can't picture how big a baseball field is on a certain number of acreage. Like, that's just, my brain can't calculate that. I can measure liquid perfectly by eye, but I can't picture the size of a baseball field or a football field or anything like that. So I think that this is a good first step. This map is a good first step, but I would really be interested in hearing the feedback of all of council and all the EDC, and probably even parks wouldn't be a bad idea to include on, is there, in an optimal world, how would you see a park? Now, reality versus what we want is sometimes different, but if there is something that someone's like, hey, why don't we do it this way instead? It's never a bad idea to get a whole bunch of ideas going. So that would be my recommendation if we move forward with this, is to have at least one meeting like that where we have big maps and we're able to draw it out and kind of get an idea on paper of what we picture and not just what an engineer and architect can put together. This was super helpful in just framing size, but moving forward, it still has to be something usable. So
agreed.
That's all I wanted to share.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. We will start with Councilman Hicks.
Nay.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it. That will be 4-3.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcus Mattingly. Got your water bottle. Okay. All right. Very good. We're moving on. See, we already took care of 15B, so we'll move on to 15C, discussion action on the reappointment of Leslie Peedy as the City of Cibolo's Director for the Cibolo Valley Local Government Corporation, aka CVLGC. This is a 4-year term, and her present term expired on the 30th of September 23. Ms. Simics.
So Ms. Peedy has been on the Cibolo Valley Local Government Corporation for some time, but her term ended on the end of September. They did ask to have this put on our agenda to see if they could, she could be reappointed. She is an expert in the water field and has been for a number of, I mean, both her and her husband were part of, what was it, the Texas Environment, TCQ. And so she is our expert for Cibolo, and that's why she's been on this committee.
And she's willing to do it
And
again?
she's willing to do it.
I make a motion to reappoint Ms. Peedy.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, 7-0. Welcome back, Miss Peedy.
They know they're being volunteered.
Sweet. Right. All right, moving on. 15D, discussion action to approve the FY2023 Strategic Plan Annual Report. Mr. Reed.
Evening, Mayor, members of council. So I'll just start by going back to January of 2022, and it was the first strategic planning workshop that this council participated in, and there was a lot of excitement around that, and by August of 22, you adopted your first strategic plan. And why do we do this? You had never had a vision statement or a strategic plan before I got here. And I told you that if we were to be a vision-inspired, a mission-focused, a values-driven, and a performance-based organization, and we're to achieve excellence, you need a strategic plan that's focused in on your vision. Since August of 2022, staff has worked very diligently to align its priorities with the goals that you set in this strategic plan for FY23, and to foster transparency of how staff did follow through on these goals and actions, we've created this annual report. By showcasing the progress made in various areas of the city, the annual report provides a clear picture of how different city departments are contributing to the overall success of your strategic plan, of your priorities, and your goals. The report serves as an important tool that will help the City Council have a snapshot of the previous year's accomplishments, identify areas of success and potential improvements, and set the stage for the next fiscal year's actions that will promote Council's vision. In this annual report, there are 163 total goals. 91 goals were completed, 42 goals are in progress, 23 goals have involved requesting funding in FY24, 4 goals were not started, and 3 goals were identified as ongoing. For this meeting, staff is seeking approval from Council of the FY23 Strategic Plan Annual Report. I'll just turn to a few pages. I want to highlight why is this important to you. I said it before, your strategic plan is the best tool for you to ensure that there's clarity between you and the city manager as to what the staff resources should be focused on. It's a communication tool between you and me, between you and staff, between the city and the public. And it's also a tool to be used with your budgeting process. You have successfully achieved all 3 of those. I'm going to skip through the annual report, but if you're thumbing through it with me, if you turn to page 5, it's Economic Development Strategic Goal number 1. I am not reading every single goal and every single update, but what I found interesting under this was 1.1.1, update the comp plan's flume to reflect a balanced Cibolo tax base to include increased revenue through sales tax. You approved in your budget for FY23 the comprehensive plan update, and you know where we're at with that comprehensive plan. We aligned our resources with your priority. 1.1.5 is conduct an EDC strategic plan. You allocated the funds, we went through the procurement process to select the consultant, and that project is ongoing. If I jump over to page 6 under your section 1.2, there's a goal stating 1.2.3, promote growth near I-10 by designing a public safety facility for fire and police presence. Tonight you actually awarded a contract to an architectural and engineering firm to proceed with that after we did just the conceptual designs earlier in the year. Under the next summary section, section 1.3, which is aggressive recruitment of targeted industries, goal 1.3.1, prepare a recruitment plan to bring industry to IH10, including IT companies. So as part of the EDC strategic plan development, targeted industries will be identified, including potential IT uses. Once the targeted industries are identified, staff will have the ability to develop an aggressive recruitment plan to pursue businesses within the identified targeted industries. Let me go on to the next one at the bottom of page 8. Actually, I'm going to skip over that just for the sake of time. And I'm going to move on to the next section of your strategic plan. That's infrastructure. So I'm on page 12 of your annual report. Under strategic goal number 2, infrastructure, 2.1 goal is to be intentional with infrastructure investment to promote economic development, responsible growth, and public safety. The action under that goal, 2.1.2, is create a CIP practice during the annual budget process to look at infrastructure coordination over multiple years. You conducted multiple budget workshops, but that very first one, we gave you all the information as our decision makers of how to create a multi-year balanced plan, and you did an extremely incredible job of pulling all that together and in your annual budget doing exactly what this action identified. Action 2.1.4, reauthorize the street maintenance sales tax in November 2022. That was accomplished. Action 2.1.10, hire a consultant to complete an update to the DCM. You approved that contract earlier for 3 different consultants. They're actively working on that, and although Mr. Foose isn't looking at me, I'm looking at him because we will be delivering that DCM to you in the next few months. If not in the next month, we should have a presentation just where we're at, talking specifically about local streets and what a cross-section looks like and what's an adequate width. You said that was a priority, and staff has executed on your priority. Under the next section, 2.2, strategic goal number 2, infrastructure, it says gain control of the utility service areas within our growth area. I think that this is a really good section where goals 2.2.2 through 2.2.5 are so interrelated, but they're separate. And I know that you know through all of our updates, we're actively managing all 4 actions so that we produce the most positive outcome for the city of Cibolo. And so when you look at page 14, all of those particular actions show an interrelated accomplishment. I want to move on to page 15, and this is 2.3 goal, execute on the city's funded capital improvement projects. I'm just going to call out 2.3.5, that's Dean Road. The one underneath that's Bolton Road. And you go down to 2.3.10, Lower Seguin Road. Mr. Foose gave you earlier that the bids are out, and we expect to be in front of you, will be in front of you December 14th for you to award the contract on those 3 roads. Action 2.3.7 is the 5 other roads, design only. That's Green Valley Road, 2 sections of Green Valley Road. That's Silver Wing Road, it's Firebird Run, and it's Town Creek Road. We will be coming to you with the first 3 roads, Green Valley Road in 2 sections and Silver Wing Road, with a request for bids later this year, and we expect to be in front of you sometime in January for an award of contract. We'll be coming back with Firebird Run and Town Creek Road, which require more work. It's just not a surface milling and then treatment. It's more digging into the road and rebuilding it. Those will follow shortly in February and March so that we have all 5 roads under design in 2024 and coming back to you with the bids to build those 5 roads. Let me move on from there, and I'm going to go to the next section, your partnerships and relationships. And this was a goal that I remember, a strategy that the council came up with because you knew that you could not, as a single entity, achieve your potential for our community to achieve its potential if we did not embrace partnerships and relationships. And so 3.1.8, and this is page 18, we said create and maintain an annual meeting plan for economic development staff to meet with local and regional development organizations and groups. And you get regular updates every month from our ED professionals. And you've been hearing a lot of positive movement that we've been having by us responding to these solicitations for new businesses coming to the San Antonio area. It's that relationship building that we've done that has helped us be successful in having the opportunity to actually land another large project like the city did with Ishan. 3.1.13 is create and maintain an annual meeting plan for the city manager to meet with our local chambers of commerce. I miss less than 10% of any of the chamber meetings or the Tri-County Chamber meetings, because it's important that they know that we not only fund them every year, but that the city is present and at the table and involved. And many of you attend ribbon cuttings to show that we support the economic development activity and the investment of companies coming to our community. 3.1.15 says, create and maintain a current HOA contact list to host annual town halls with topics important to HOAs. We just talked about your second town hall. And by extension, although it's not specific here, you're hosting knowledge workshop series to further embrace our HOAs and help them be successful. 3.1.18 is host an annual volunteer recognition event to celebrate our citizens that serve on a volunteer body. And we did that last year. Our first ever volunteer recognition program was put on by the city secretary late last year, and we're going to do it again this year. Moving on, it says create and maintain an annual years of service recognition program for employees. That's 3.1.20. 3.1.21, host an annual recognition appreciation event for all employees. Many of you attended that last December, and I believe some of you enjoyed standing up there with the employees who were employees of the year, people managers of the year, teams of the year, and the feel-good moment we had to recognize excellence in our organization. I hope you enjoyed that event. We're doing it again this year. If I move on to page 20, under your 3.2 goal, lead efforts to advocate for legislation that promotes Cibolo's interest. 3.2.3, city attorney is required to provide an annual update regarding new laws that impact municipal authority for development. Frank Garza gave you that presentation in May of 2023. If I move on to page 21, under 3.3 goal, be prepared to engage partner agencies when at the table. And this is a great example because I've been saying and talking to things that have worked out successfully, but the action 3.3.1, explore a county-city joint facility off of I-10, such as a fire station 4 and a police annex. On that same page 21, if you look underneath it, it shows staff met with county representatives throughout FY 2023, ultimately leading to the county not participating in the development of a safety facility near I-10. Sometimes when we engage, we realize we don't have mutual interest and we have to go our separate ways. And we understood that, but we did try. And I think this is a great example of completing an assignment, advocating for our best interest, but realizing the county wasn't going to be at the table. And that's not to speak negatively of the county. They just had a different plan. If we move on to quality of life under strategic goal number 4, your goal 4.1 is promote active lifestyles for all ages by providing opportunities to recreate. 4.1.2 is develop a trail system that connects neighborhoods and commercial areas. Tonight, you'll be considering a design contract to design the Town Creek Trail, and that will allow us to continue to work with TxDOT to enter into an advanced funding agreement to achieve what the AAMPO approved in 2021. 4.1.7 is recruit bike-friendly companies. I'd like to highlight this one only because Kelsey Jordan Lee stood in front of you and asked exactly what does this mean, and by clarifying it, we did not overexpend resources to go out and recruit something that you weren't really speaking to. So we updated in this annual report what you meant, and so that was a good outcome as well. I'm going to skip over the rest of quality of life and just go to the financial integrity. And so I'm on page 30. You had a goal, 5.1, foster fiscal health through disciplined long-term planning, cost control, efficiency, transparency, increased revenue, and innovative funding solutions. And the action, 5.1.1, is ensure a balanced budget is achieved through the annual budget process by managing expenses within revenues. And we successfully did that this year. I've already spoken to the number of workshops that you completed, the number of special presentations that we made to you. So again, when you set a priority, it's our job to deliver on that. If we go to page 31, You had another goal, 5.2, develop a 5-year forecast and maintain CIP funding sources. I've already spoken to that under a previous section, infrastructure. But again, I believe our actions reflect and are in line with what your priority was and how you developed your 5-year CIP project and the FY24 budget to fund specific infrastructure. So I will move past infrastructure, and I'm going to go to your operational excellence, your final section. Under this one, you talked about in the first goal, 6.1, govern openly to build and sustain trust through citizen inclusion and involvement. You talk about an action of 6.1.2, update the comprehensive plan. 6.1.5, update the DCM. I've already alluded to that, but again, there's crossover between operational excellence and our other sections. We've also talked about here on ensure that there is a requirement in RFP or RFPs for CIP projects to include renderings. And you've seen that just in the recent efforts with the animal services facility and in the public safety facility. And while you may think, well, that's a pretty minor thing that we've asked for, small things as well as your larger priorities have an equal weight in here so that we are following up on what you're asking for. And let me just hit one more section. I'm going to page 37, but really we're going to look at page 38. 6.3 is high quality services are responsive to citizen needs, readily accessible, courteously delivered, and professionally managed. You can see on page 38, several of the projects, all of the projects were complete. That is, provide bond and CIP updates to the public with a dedicated web page, social media blast, and newsletter articles. Reestablish council orientations and ensure there is representation from all departments. Create and maintain all committee orientations. Maintain existing GIS development maps and website. And the list goes on. So this annual report, if you have any questions about it, I'm happy to answer those. I thought it was important that because we're new to strategic planning, that we produce a report that shows we're paying attention and we're delivering on your priorities. Happy to answer any questions.
I'd like to say, first of all, thank you for putting all this together. And in going to conference last week, I got to understand why the importance for a strategic plan. So I'm so thankful that you have implemented it and have this in place. I would just, whenever we get back to City Hall, this is such great information. I'd like for our residents to actually see it.
Mhm.
And I was just kind of looking behind, realizing, oh, they don't know what page 17 looks like, and they're sitting here before us. And it's just so rich in content that I just kind of verified. It is online on the agenda if you click on 15D, so that residents at home also can kind of go back and look at these. But this was very well done by city staff, so I just want to say thank you for doing that
You're
and
welcome.
showing us the progress and having it before staff so that we can make sure that we're on target and really achieving these goals. And so thank you for doing this.
And Ms. Sanchez-Stevens, we will also post it on the council webpage on the city's website. You have a webpage that's dedicated to your strategic plan, and so we will post it there. We'll also do some news flashes saying we have our first annual strategic plan annual report, and it's posted here. So we will call as much attention to it as possible so people know where it is.
Thank you. Ready to move on to E?
Or for council to approve.
Sorry, we got to vote. Okay, got a motion and a second.
Mahoney and then
Councilman Mahoney
Roberts.
made the motion and Councilman Roberts seconded it. So on this one, we'll start with Councilman Benson.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 7-0, Mr. Reed. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 15E, discussion action on approving the proposed FY 2024 to FY 2027 Council Strategic Plan. Mr. Reed.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll be more abbreviated with your new strategic plan versus the annual report. What I want to say is when you've brought to our attention new threats, new opportunities, weaknesses and strengths to our attention, you'll find that we did our best to actually put this in here. Let's talk about flooding. So flooding's been an issue in the city, will remain an issue, like all communities. But we identified some opportunities for us to make progress on the flooding in Cibolo. So let me identify that under infrastructure, and give me a second to find it. Man, I should have brought glasses. So I'm on the page that is strategic goal 2, infrastructure. So I'm under the infrastructure strategy. It's goal 2.1, and it reads, be intentional with infrastructure investment to promote economic development, responsible growth, and public safety. Let's look towards the bottom of that section 2.1, and you will see 2.1.16, 2.1.17, 2.1.18. All three are related to a custom-tailored solution to make incremental improvements on local flooding. So here's what 2.1.16 says. City staff to work with the San Antonio River Authority as FEMA's cooperating technical partner to obtain the latest floodplain mapping to learn of flood risk. We have actually already achieved that by requesting that and getting it. That's our first step. The second step is under 2.1.17, provide opportunity through public workshops for residents to give input on updated floodplain maps to understand local flooding events and document this data in a local data repository. Evaluate local flooding accounts to develop possible solutions to reduce potential risks. What's important here is that learning from other communities, flooding isn't always related to your floodplain. There's a built environment in which flooding occurs that is because, for example, we have a railroad, and the railroad creates a small dam. And so when we start to see where localized flooding is occurring, the only way we can map that is by documenting it. So these workshops allow residents to come in with photographs, which I've seen in many public meetings where people are saying, this is the flood of this year or that year. I've been given a video of a resident on Tolly Road of one of the flood events, and he drove his truck from the south end to the north end, and all you could see was this running water. On the north end of Tolly Road, there's no floodplain, but the water was gushing all the way down the road. South end of Tolly Road, you have floodplain. It's accounts like that that we put into this local repository where we can understand the facts on the ground because residents are giving us that input, and then we can start to build solutions to help mitigate those flood risks. We can, with that kind of data, request grants from the federal and state government because we have real data to substantiate why we need the money and what the solution would be to help mitigate the current problem.
Mr. Reed.
Yes, sir.
Ag Life came here, and we have the information. It was before you, it was before Kelsey, but we've got that information. Ag Life came and did a presentation. I was part of it, and we pointed out where schools were, where low water crossings were, where all those flooding situations that I'm aware of since I've been here for as many years as I've had. And we've pointed them out. So we just need to reach out to the Ag Life because they did a Bexar County, and it took a couple of years before they came and did Guadalupe County, but they've got us on the all that information that you're talking about.
I'll reach out and get that. Here's my commitment, Mr. Hicks, is it'll become a real database for us versus a forgotten exercise. So this information will be part of the website. It'll be part of our capital improvement program. And we will, after this year, where we collect all this and we start to map it and document it, when you come back next year, you may actually have an infrastructure project that's tied into one of these instances where you say, go out and seek funding for that, so for that issue.
And I'm not saying not to get a workshop and get the public's information, but we've got a lot of that information already documented.
And we will get that. And that was my point, is we're going to get that. But
Okay.
this time it'll be in a real database that's sustained and maintained annually. And the last one is fund and conduct formal master drainage study using local knowledge and resident accounts collected to develop a plan to reduce flood risk. So those three things have come from repeated comments of flooding in this community, of projects in which we know we're trying to mitigate the known flooding from the floodplain, and you're balancing all of your funding sources. So I wanted to point out, there's a good example of something that we've added based upon your this past year of comments and your direction. I already mentioned that we have also funded in here to move forward with the fire ISO, because you put that in the budget, a tie-in between your strategic plan and a priority that arose in this year but was not there in January of 2022. And you know that Chief Troncoso will make good in working with that consultant and working with you to develop a good understanding of where we are when it comes to our insurance compliance for an ISO. We'd love to elevate our ISO from a 3 to higher, but this study that we do this year is in advance of actually calling in the ISO office for them to conduct this study. So that also has made it in here. Also under infrastructure, you'll find that we've listed every project that you put in your FY24 budget. We intend to make good on every project that you have funded for FY24 and advance a design or advance the construction. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about this year's strategic plan.
No questions? We hear a motion? Okay, I got a motion and a second. Let's see. This time we'll start with Councilman Benson.
Aye.
Ayes have it, Mr. Reed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. And I also attend conferences and I go to those strategic planning sessions, and sometimes I hear from other city managers, you have to have awareness of where your organization is. You have accelerated this jump into strategic planning and now strategic management because we're managing the plan. And you should feel very good about your willingness to do some heavy lifting over the last year and a half to get to where you're at. This is no small feat. It's not a small feat for your staff to deliver on it as well. But through this incremental approach, we will start tackling problems that I heard many of you 2 years ago tell me, it's been like this forever and we don't seem to make progress. We will make progress on all of your priorities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. All right, moving on to 15F, discussion action to authorize the city manager to execute a work order with Collier's Engineering and Design to complete the required engineering to Town Creek Hike and Bike Trail System, Phase 1. Thank you, sir. In the amount of $220,000, $852, Mr. Food.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight we're looking at awarding a contract for engineering services for the AAMPO Town Creek Trail Project by the City of Cibolo. I've handed out the AAMPO project. This is actually the documents that was originally submitted with AAMPO. Mr. Hicks, you're very familiar with this. You're our champion over there getting that thing moved forward, so we appreciate that. As everybody knows, this is kind of a long project. It takes time to put these together. AAMPO moves very slowly. The reason they move slowly is because we have a mix of multiple types of money into the program that AAMPO gives out. There are federal highway dollar money in there, there's state money in there, there's TxDOT money in there. So there's a lot of T's to cross and I's to dot, and this is why the engineering needs to start now. So this is part of the process here. Included in the engineering services that will be performed, topographical and improvement surveys, tree surveys, site investigations, schematic design, civil plan preparations, permitting process, Union Pacific permitting assistance and coordination, TxDOT permitting and assistance coordination, and then obviously construction phase services. It's a lump sum fee to do this. So it's an involved process we have to work through. We're working in and around a flood area, so there's some sensitivities in reference to that. We have to make sure we're meeting the codes when we're working in an area that has a running creek in it that's protected by the government. So there's a lot of steps involved here. I know, Mr. Hicks, you're very familiar with this part of this project. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I don't want to spend a lot of time going over this. The data was in your packet. We did want to hand out the original AAMPO call for projects there, so you have an understanding of what the layout, what the rough layout looked like when we provided this to AAMPO. We have been in contact with them, and we're working towards moving our project forward. And this is the next step where we have to do the design work and all the things necessary to move this through so we can start with an advanced funding agreement.
Correct.
Any questions?
Because I've been pushing for this to start next year. Not just this, but actual turning dirt. So one thing that I've been pushing for. So.
Our goal is to turn dirt sometime around September, no later than October. I'm looking right at Chris Otto.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. This time we'll start. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilman Mahoney?
I don't want to delay things, but there's sometimes some terminology I don't understand, and I'll phrase it like I want it explained for the folks at home that are watching, but I'll be honest and say I don't know what CMAQ stands for, TSMO. Those are trivial probably, but that was my question is, what does that mean?
What that is
Can excuse me?
Well, I can answer those for you, but if you don't want the answer, that's fine.
Well, I'm directing my question to Mr. Foose.
I'm going to tell you very much so that I have no idea what TSMO stands for, and I'm going to ask our engineer if he knows what that stands for.
Joel knows.
Mr. Hicks?
I'm good.
Can I just add something to this discussion, because I was going to wait, but I think this is important.
I'm good.
Like, you had a packet that was sent out, and then I get handed this, and I'm sure this has all been vetted and it's wonderful, but frankly, it just looks really rough for council to be handed stuff constantly at the meeting and then said, hey, you're making a decision on something, right? And if I am watching at home, like, well, what did they just hand them? Have they read this? I haven't. And then interestingly, Mr. Mahoney says, what do these initials mean? And there's nobody here except Mr. Hicks that know what they mean. This is kind of frustrating. And I think in general, it just needs to stop. If you think it needs to be in the packet, put it in the packet. If it doesn't, stop handing it out to me, because it makes us look like we're not prepared to make votes on a meeting, and it's frustrating me. But having said that, if you'd like to answer what a TMSO is, I'm sure the whole audience would love to know, since no one seems to.
All right, we got a motion and a second. I'm going to call for a vote, starting with Councilman Benson.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you
Councilman
very
Hicks,
much
for your
and
work on
we'll
the
be sure to
AMP.
find out what that means and get that sent out, because to be honest with you, I believe it's a transportation safety measure operation, but I don't want to guess at it. Thank you.
All right, so that's it for the action ones. We're going to jump over to 16, executive session. The city council will meet in executive session as authorized by the Texas Government Code, section 551.071. Consultation with attorney to discuss the following. A, possible negotiations of an interlocal agreement with Guadalupe County on road improvements in the city's ETJ. B, discussion regarding the interpretation of Chapter 42 of the Texas Local Government Code with Kelsey Lee and Miss Salas. So the time is now 9:25. We will break into executive session. Good night, Terry. just missing Mahoney. There he is.
Look, Mr. Hetzel came back
Okay.
how many times?
I know. I'm just waiting on Mahoney. He's getting some candy.
Oh, yeah.
I lost the last page of my agenda, so I might have to look at yours for the very last page. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay. We're back in regular session. I did announce the time a minute or two ago. So we're going to move on to 15G, discussion on the Tully Road pavement options. Mr. Foose.
This is kind of an update for the entire council. On Tully Road, we held a town hall. We held a town hall meeting a little over a month ago to meet with residents along Tully Road to discuss the Tully Road project, where we were with the project, the cost of the project, the impact the project would have on potentially on some of the neighbors' property, utility impacts and all those things. As part of that conversation, the residents wanted us as a group to look at possibly changing that project into something a little less substantial. How's that sound, Mr. Hicks? Is that about right?
I think we have good.
Intense. I'll use the word intense. That's probably the same as.
I think we have good, better, best, and this was a fair.
Yes. So when you look at the second page on my council comm, essentially what we're providing you with is we're providing another option to look at, and that is doing a simple mill and overlay. What came up was a discussion in reference to doing something similar to what they did along FM 1103 to fix the roads, to provide a temporary solution to the roadway by doing something less invasive, less expensive, and something that could be implemented sooner than later. Because essentially when we're talking about a major project like we were talking about funding it approximately 4 years from now or 5 years from now, and it was like, well, we need to do it now, but we need less of a project to maybe do that. And that was part of that conversation.
True, but I thought part of that project was the sewer line.
Yes. And the sewer line's mentioned in here. So the sewer line's actually funded from sewer impact fees, and it can be done as a separate project. Right, we weren't going to do that. We were going to use some. There are alternative funding methods available to do that. So if you look at this chart, the chart is very similar to the chart that was shown at the meeting, except when you look at now, there are 2 additional projects that are shown on the bottom and the cost thereof. And these are projects that are much less invasive. They're a simpler project. They don't involve a bunch of drainage work, land acquisition, easements, water line relocations, and all the things that went in with that. Because essentially, when you build these large box culverts under a road, the concrete on the outside, we refer to that as riprap. You have to extend the boxes out far enough, and then you have to build drainage intakes and discharge areas to do that. That's where the one challenge was coming in, where these were going to impact transportation water mains that were going to have to be either moved away or moved down, and those are very expensive to move because those are actually large diameter lines, and that was part of the cost involved here. So the object was that we looked at an alternative. What would it take to basically take the current road, mill the current road down approximately 6 to 8 inches, put 3 inches of base material down, and then come back in, put 1 layer of type B type asphalt, a supporting course of asphalt, and then an overcoat on top of that, type C, the wear course. What would it take to do that, and how much would that cost versus doing a full-blown, full-depth, complete reconstruction of the road? And as you can see, to do that, it takes a project that's basically all in with drainage and everything else. It's almost $7 million, and reduces it down to $2 million. That's a substantial reduction in the cost of doing the project. If we take, and at the same time, if we mix in the cost of doing the sewer main at the same time that we're doing that road, the all-in price is $3.8 million versus $7 million. And that includes doing the sewer main all the way down, going into Steel Creek, where we talked about as part of the project. So you can see there's a way to do this where we provide a good traveling road, albeit it's going to have a shorter lifespan than if you went in and spent $7 or $8 million to do a complete reconstruction. You're looking at a road that probably has a 5 to 7 year lifespan, approximately, because we're not building up the road with 30 inches of base material and all those other things. We're going to go in, mill off the current asphalt, add 3 inches of base material so you have a stable starting point, a level starting point. Put 4 inches or 6 inches of type B asphalt down. That's your supporting course, and then the wear course on top is 2 inches of type C. That's the surface that basically takes and wears, and you can mill that off again and again and just put a 2 inches layer on and basically keep using the base as long as the base doesn't fail. Obviously, in some areas, as we know, some of the areas, even though there was 8 and 12 inches of base material underneath them, the roads have failed anyway, and that's just due to what's underneath them. That's why when you do a full reconstruction, you're replacing everything that's bad under the road and building a 30 or 32 inch or 36 inch road section, which lasts for 20 or 30 years versus doing a mill and overlay that's only this thick total, where essentially we're giving you a 5 to 7 year road.
So Cibolo Valley Drive was more the 20-year option, right?
Yes, sir. When the areas where we did the full reconstructions, and that, everybody saw that section 3, we did a whole bunch of that type of work. That is a full reconstruction of that road. That means going all the way down, building that road all the way back up with base material, putting TX5, that plastic, you saw that triangle-shaped plastic that goes in there. That's a binder course that makes the base material more stable and it stops it from shifting and cracking.
Yep.
That's why you put that in here. Then you had the 6 inches of type B, the supporting course, and then you had 2 inches of asphalt on top of that. So yes, sir, that's a full depth reconstruction. In a couple areas down here by where the Walmart is, you notice we didn't do all that. We just milled off 2 inches, put 2 inches of new asphalt down. Basically, you have a new wear surface. The road continues on.
So, Mayor and Council, Mr. Hicks, go ahead.
This cost includes the 2 lower water crossings that we got there? Are we just going to mill and overlay these?
Mr. Hicks, this when we look at the lower cost option that we're looking on here, this is essentially, this is a roadway project only. This deletes.
Okay. And so it's a roadway project only, but it also includes the sewer line underneath the road.
When you look at the two options,
yeah.
If you took everything out and just did a mill and overlay, it's $2 million even.
Okay,
Yes,
so it's $2,087,000 for the road work, and then the
1.6 for the sanitary sewer.
Okay, so 1.6 for the sanitary sewer, and that's coming from impact fees that we've collected.
Yes, sir. On the council communication, we've listed here as part of this process here. We've listed the funding capacities that were available at the time of the writing of this council com. So you can see that there's funding available in transportation money, there's funding available in sanitary sewer or wastewater money. So there was funding sources available without having to tap into bonding money.
Well, I got a phone call last night, Mr. Andy.
Yes, sir.
Know how he could end up getting sewer. And I told him that we were doing away with the lift station up behind Wall Road in Cibolo Vista.
The Countryville one, not the one on Wild Road, the one above that.
Countryville.
Yes, sir.
Yes. And having, yes, Countryville. And Cibolo Vista. We're taking that one offline, and that they would be running sewer line down Valley Road.
No, that would be running that line, when we take that lift station out of service, we're going to bypass the pumping feature where we pump it through the neighborhood, and we're going to take it around and take it to the Wild Road lift station. Ultimately, the Wild Road lift station will also be taken out of service when we complete all of the sanitary sewer lines all the way down Tolly Road.
Well, he just wants to know if we put a tap, when we're doing it, to his property. That's the point.
When the plans are finalized and we determine how far up the road we're coming, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
He wants sewer.
It's important to note, just so everybody knows, letters went out. We have an open house, another town hall meeting here on, I believe it's the 26th, Thursday evening, starting at 6:30 to 8:30. We'll be meeting in the Noble group here. I believe it's the 26th. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We'll have another town hall meeting. Letters are already out. They should have already received them because we sent them out early, middle of last week. So everybody should already have the letters. So we haven't. That is almost undoubtedly why you got the phone call. We did,
No, he wanted to know who he could talk to. I knew this was on the agenda, so I can direct him to come and call.
he can reach out to the Public Works Office, or he can show up at the town hall meeting that we have, and we'll be happy to share information with him. The object is that we're going back, after we brief the council, we're gonna go back and we're gonna have another conversation with the residents. We're gonna show them the exact same information we've came up here, because we didn't have any real hard numbers at that point in time. When we discussed this with the residents, the object was, that's a great idea, let's take a look at option C, which is, as the mayor calls it, fair. D, fair. And take a look at what that would take and see if that was palatable to council. And if it was, and it worked with the neighbors, then basically that may be the direction we go, which reduces our cost, still gets us a decent working road, and we get to build the sanitary sewer line where it needs to be for future use.
Okay. Yeah, and so, you know, I also got a call from Mike Andrews. I think he was actually right before the last council meeting. He called me up, and then I called him back, but he was like, you know, look, you got to go to a council meeting. I'll talk to you about this later, and I didn't hear back from him, but I'm sure that's what he wanted to talk about, the same thing. And so, on this one, so is the cost for, and I'm looking at this, and I see, you know, fund balances and things like that, but I just wanted to clarify the cost, because I want to talk about this in my wrap-up show.
Yes, sir.
The cost for the drainage portion, let's just call it the underground sewer. Is the underground sewer 1.9 million, or tell me the cost?
The sanitary sewer part?
Yeah.
Basically, the sanitary sewer part, it adds approximately 1.6 million to the cost.
1.6 million, okay.
Yes,
and then
1.592, I mean, it's 1.6 million.
Yeah, that's fine, I'll round it up. Okay, 1.6 million for the underground sewer, and then how much is the road cost?
It's right there on the second.
2 million.
Or 2,087,000.
2 million, okay.
I wish.
2,087,000.
I'll just, whatever, 87, I'll just call it 2 million, okay. Okay.
And
Close
the
enough.
reason they don't add up exactly is because when you look at this, the contingency's built in. When you make a bigger number, there's a certain amount of 5% contingency added to this. So when you can't just add the two numbers together without adding the additional contingency. That's why there's a small discrepancy in the addition.
Okay, and so the underground sewer is paid for with impact.
Can be.
Yeah,
Based-
okay.
Based on future council action.
Okay, paid with existing impact fees we have in the bank, right? More or less.
Mr. Foos, how much would it, just kind of curious, because I remember in that last meeting with the residents, it was a high concern about the flooding when it does rain. I know we haven't gotten rain in a while, but the low water crossings, how much is a gate, like a water crossing gate, maybe for that area, since we're already making improvements, maybe an install? I know that we're doing one in Deer Creek, or proposed to in the future, right?
Right. So
How much is that?
there are two ways to do gates. One is we can do the manually operated gates, which we have in multiple locations around town. My team actually buys the steel, welds it together, and builds them out in the field. It might cost us $1,000 or $1,500 to put a set of gates on a road.
I know where you can pick up the
Probably laying on the side of the road somewhere.
stuff. The ones from Acreville Road.
Yeah, the challenge with those,
You have a new road, and then you're going to have.
the challenge we have faced in the past, and I think it's important to mention this, is the fact that there are people in town, I'm not sure, they may not be residents, they just may be living in the county, but they believe those things, that's a challenge. So on multiple occasions, we've had people ram the gates at speed to see if they can bust them through. And the ones on Hakerville Road, we've had to replace those 3 times where someone decided to see if they could get them through. The one time, someone tried to do it with a car, and they almost decapitated themselves because went under the arm, and the arm came through and went up through into the windshield. That guy tried to run. Mrs. Dean, that lives on the corner of Park Valley and Hakerville Road, basically got pictures of the car, called the police, and we actually wound up finding out who it was. Another time, a white Dodge pickup truck with a big brush bar in the front just blew the gates out, and they destroy them. That's a shame, because essentially we're trying to prevent somebody from hurting themselves, but essentially some people think that's a game to see if you can blow those things out. We can build them, we can put them in, that's not a problem. The other challenge is that normally when the floods happen, it happens in the middle of the night. We don't have staff out there doing that at that point in time, and normally the police are already working multiple events in a heavy rain. Asking them to be the gate closers sometimes is a challenge, But normally, once the rain gets that bad, they're already calling us in, and we're out there working the gates anyway. So, yes, the gates, we can do gates, much less automatic gates in a remote area like that have a low survivability rate. They just, they will not make it. When they're not near houses or anything else, when they're out in the county like that, they have a low survivability rate.
So should council
I'm-
proceed with this project, right? We're just here getting direction tonight, a feel for where this council
Okay.
is.
So, yeah,
We'll
so
hold the town hall with the residents, and we have to come back to you, right? You're not authorizing anything. We're just trying to get a feel.
We wanted to,
And if
Okay,
you want-
so-
we want to be sure council understood what the options were going to be presented at the upcoming
Yes.
meeting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Based on,
Okay.
based on citizen input.
Okay, real quick.
Yes, sir.
I know that we did have a town hall with the citizens that live off Tolly Road. The feedback that I've gotten was generally positive. However, some of the improvements that were recommended to me as the mayor is for us to give them a little bit more of a heads up and leeway time, and to do another town hall with more participation. I think the participation was rather light, but that may be even the exact same people that come to the next one. Maybe those are just the ones that are interested. But my recommendation would be to have a subsequent town hall meeting, giving them, let's just call it 2 weeks to a month, leeway. You know what I mean? Like, send the letter out and then give them like about, anywhere between 2 weeks to a month from the time they get the letter.
We're doing that right now. So we
Okay.
sent letters out last week and basically providing approximately 21 days notice of
Yes.
the next upcoming meeting
Okay.
on the 26th.
Okay, so we're going to have the meeting on the 26th of November then, right?
6:30 p.m. here. Well, actually, I believe it's in this room or the other room, but it's in this building.
So
it's in this room? Thank you.
October 26th, okay.
October
All right.
26th.
That's coming right up, all right. So that's in 16 days? Okay. Okay, and the letter went out when?
Last week.
Okay.
We gave
All
him
right.
20, we gave him 20, the letters were mailed with 21 days notice in mind.
Okay.
So we know the letters started getting delivered on Saturday because we started getting calls on Monday about it.
Okay,
So
very
we know
good,
that
yeah.
they're out there. So that
Yeah.
would give them 19 days notice of a upcoming meeting.
Okay, that's what spurred the Mike Andrews call, right? The letter. Okay.
I
All
would
right.
believe that's probably what spurred
Okay.
that. Yes, sir.
Very good. All right, very good. And so, I know we're not going to vote on this, but let's just say, is there anybody who objects to this? All right, hearing none, then that's agreement.
Thank you very
Okay.
much. And it was just an informational thing. We want to be sure council was informed before we went to the residents and let them know what we were thinking.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Mr. Foos. Appreciate it, sir. All right, moving on to 15H, discussion on council sessions ending with the executive sessions. Councilwoman Sanchez Stevens.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to make mention that maybe it would be a benefit to us to consider kind of streamlining our meetings a little bit, executive sessions. And I know that there's times where we have to, I guess the last 2 times that I've noticed that I've been here so far, we've had to have 2. It was the first time. But having them at the end, I feel it just kind of helps us finalize the decisions that we're here to vote on and to make decisions on in a timely manner so that we can execute them and swiftly so that also our city staff can go ahead and make progress. At the same time, last time I think we left a lot of things on the table, because we had a lot of interruptions. And overall, I just feel like we need to really streamline our meetings. And by streamlining our meetings, I feel that we can also allow our residents at home to remain engaged. If we're constantly going in and out of executive sessions in the middle of the meeting, they're going to either turn that off, get disengaged, not even finish the rest of the meeting, whatnot. But also, I would respect the time of our residents, those who come to be present or those who are also at home. And most importantly, we should honor our staff's time just as well, as they have to report back to work first thing in the morning. So I feel this is something we should consider. I realize that there will be occasions where it may need to be where we have to do it, in the middle of the meeting, but that's like an exception, that's how we should consider that. But lastly, it would just be of great benefit to us to also follow the agenda for the way that it's written sometimes also so that residents can follow that along just at home just as well. Just things in consideration of how to streamline things and do things better in our city. I think there's always room for improvement, and these are just a couple of things. Well, one of the things that I just noticed that we could probably work on since I'm newly here that I feel like we could, improve. So Also, a lot of time goes into preparations for our meetings, and we should strive for an organized and streamlined meeting, and be respecters of others' time. So, yeah, I just wanted to kind of share that to see if maybe we could consider doing executive sessions at the end, and that would allow more staff to also head home, allow residents, presenters who come to do their part, and also to leave rather than wait for us for an hour and a half, if it is at all possible, if we can consider doing that.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Stevens. All right, moving on to 15I, discussion on all commercial properties on FM 1103 and 78 and the current zoning. Councilman Benson.
So this is kind of a follow-up for the future land use map and future thoroughfare map discussion we had with the master plan. I've sent a couple emails over the last several months, but I wanted to have this broader conversation to make sure that's on the master plan discussion, because it's pretty constant that we get, hey, that's too deep, this is too narrow, that's too wide, you're too tall, she's too fat, you're too short, whatever, about properties along 78 and 1103. There may not be anything we can do about it, but at least if we identify what is not currently zoned correctly, then at least we could identify that in the master plan. It may require going to landowners and asking them if they're interested in looking at a different zoning that makes more sense for their land shape, size, depth, whatever. But if we could get that done, make sure that's part of the master plan, because while we're updating it, doesn't make sense to have us still looking at, C3 on 1103, and there's nobody on this planet that's ever going to develop a C3 property there. So that was what this discussion was about. Well, I mean, who was here before?
Mr. Luft?
Yeah, he escapes my mind for great reasons. But Mr. Luft, would constantly come to P&Z meetings and say, well, we need to turn that into multifamily because no one's ever going to build on this. Like, well, what does that mean? Right? I don't know what that means. But somebody zoned it C3, right? Well, it's too deep. It's too short. It's too... So if it's not working, then we should really go back and talk to whoever owns that piece of property and say, hey, we've identified in the market and real estate and commercial development, whatever, that you're never going to be able to sell this land as it's currently zoned. So then we constantly have applications coming to P&Z because everybody wants to change it to multifamily 1, for example. And then you constantly have this, the furor, everybody's upset, don't put apartments in my back, all of that, right? We ought to be zoning things appropriate to the actual size of the land and what the land can be used for. And since we're in the middle of a master plan, I just wanted to make sure that from this dais, I had said, please make sure that's something that we discuss, because otherwise we're going to be wasting our time for another 10 years until the next master plan gets done.
Yeah. So I think on an example, I mean, what you're talking about, there's two properties that immediately come to mind. I mean, the one that's immediately north of Foxbrook, I mean, it's a big square, right? And so the section of that commercial property that abuts 1103 makes sense to be commercial. However, is that entire 40-acre piece of property appropriate as commercial? And so, yeah, I mean, and then there's another property right next to that one, and the owner has come to me twice, and they've said the same thing. They said that, it makes sense to have commercial right on 1103. It's the property just north of the one I mentioned. And, the owner there is like, well, I mean, I basically, if I sell commercial on the front, then I got the whole rest of my property and there's nothing to do with it. You know what I mean? So I think it would make sense to have... Right. Well, she could give it to you, yeah, but she'll will it to you. But yeah, I mean, unless you're going to turn it into like a, let's just call it like a putt-putt golf course or a driving range or something cool. Well, I don't think that there's a ton of revenue in that to do that. But unless you have like a Home Depot come along and say, yeah, this is going to be a great spot. I'm gonna build on this whole acreage here. But it's just not realistic to think that they're going to come in that specific spot. They're going to want, 78 traffic. They're going to want 11. I mean, not 11. They're going to want like, I-10 traffic or 35 traffic. So, but yeah, I mean, it makes sense to take a look at flipping it to some form of housing zoning, apartment zoning. I don't think so, but I think,
maybe not, but
Maybe
it just seems like something's amiss, right? If we were zoned perfectly, planning and zoning really shouldn't have a whole lot to do with the, variance here. I mean, right, because it's zoned, it makes sense. People just apply the permits and move forward. So something seems askew to me. I've been dealing with this for about 10 years, and we're in a master plan. Let's try. They own the property. They don't want to mess with it, fine. But I think we got to give them the opportunity based on whatever our consultants say.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to do it during the master plan. I mean, when else? We're going to tackle it, right? Kelsey?
Yes, I just wanted to come up here and let council know that we have had discussions with Kimberly Horn, who is our consultant on this, and specifically as recently as last week, even specifically mentioned FM 1103 and these rezones that have come in, and so they are aware of it. They have committed to doing an analysis of that. That's part of all the research that they're doing here in October, so that way they can prepare some preliminary reports and findings at the November meetings. And so staff is aware of that. We agree. We definitely want to make sure that things are zoned properly, that our flume is something that makes sense, meets the needs of the community, and actually can be implemented. We don't like processing rezones either, so we would love to see everything just done the right way. And so it's just our commitment to you that we have had those discussions, and we are keeping it in front of mind. In addition to the future thoroughfare plan, we have had many discussions with the consultants about the importance of those two documents.
Thank you, Kelsey. Is that it, Councilman Benson? Being looked at. Okay. All right. Very good. Let's see. We already did J, didn't we? All right, let's talk about K, discussion on the progress of the Hakerville Road project and FM 1103 project. Councilman Hicks.
I just wanted to bring this up because I've had, and I know that you have Mayor on 1103, but Hakerville, I've had numerous calls over the last several weeks, probably the last 4 weeks, asking what the progress is, and I told them that somehow it was messed up and they dropped it too low, but I will get some information, so that's why I'm here asking.
So I can fill you in on that, Mr. Hicks. Yes, as we discussed at that, we had that impromptu
Yes, sir.
front yard meeting, for lack of a better term for that. My suspicions were correct. In between sheets 34 and 36 and 114 through 117, there is a disconnect in a surveying point where the top of the inlet boxes were set at the wrong height in reference to the actual grade of the road. And it was a mistake on the engineering. Engineering has worked that out with the contractor. The good news is by raising those up, we don't need to dig down as deep into the old roadway to build a new roadway. So essentially the cost washes out. So essentially they're going to put box risers on the top, so the inlet portion will be raised up. None of the other parts have to be moved. And then they'll raise those up, and then they won't have to dig as deep, and the road will be built just like we showed on the plan that day when we were out there, when we met with
Mr. Black is one of them, Mr. Alvarado.
Black and the neighbors, yes,
yeah.
all the neighbors. So actually, it's good news that got worked out. I got an email from the engineer last week on Friday saying that basically they've worked that out with the contractor company. They're going to put essentially a change order together that shows the what and the where and the how, but it should be a zero cost to us in reference to that part of the project. They're also scheduled to be back on site tomorrow, starting to work on additional the utility crews. So the utility crews, people that do the stormwater and those things,
okay,
they're scheduled to be back on site tomorrow. What most people don't see is the part where you can't see is on the south end by Randy Ridge's property and Tom Way's property. They've been working down there erecting the mechanically stabilized earthen walls
yes,
and building the down ramps on there. So you can't even see them from the other side where everybody's up on the north end of Hakerville Road. So they've been working away down there the whole time, finishing that part up. So there is work going on. Sometimes you can't get there from here because essentially there's no way to get down
you have
there.
to go like I do and take and
Yes.
travel around and go to
yes, sir.
Fanningsville.
That is in the process. So, there's been some delays. We're working on the time frame.
They were understanding the delay after the
Yes.
conversation or the meeting that we had. They just want to know because obviously it came to an abrupt stop. They just packed up and left one day and hadn't been back. So they wanted to know when they would be back on. I mean, because it disrupts all their lives.
I fully understand that, and Mr. Hicks, you and I had that conversation out in the field. The one thing I was adamant on is once we determined cause and effect, it's not a city problem, it's an engineering/contractor problem, and I told them they got to work it out and come to me with what I refer to as a zero net impact. I don't want someone to come back and say, I need $100,000 to fix the problem. If that's the case, the engineer needs to fix the problem. and
Right, the
spend money.
engineering firm needs to, because they messed
This
up.
is not something we got wrong. It's literally a flaw in the middle of a 190-page document. There's one.
Well, that's why I couldn't understand how they were expecting to go further towards 78 and the water flow that way. So I just wanted to appreciate the update. That way I can pass those
Yes, sir.
updates along. 1103.
I can tell you that Miss.
Go ahead.
I didn't mean to usurp you, sir. I'm
You
sorry.
are good.
Okay. So I can tell you that the report that was put out by Mr. Reed last week.
I got it and I
is
passed it along.
absolutely spot on.
Okay.
But I can give you a little background intel that I do know is that recently we've gotten a lot of requests for utility locates again. So they're now pinging us to go out and remark where our utilities are located in our section of the roadway. So over the last 7 days, we've gotten multiple requests for utility locates, and we've noticed recently there's a whole bunch, if you ride along there slowly and look, there's a bunch of new flags in a bunch of locations where they've been surveying in the missing pieces of the sound walls. So you'll notice there's a bunch of pink flags out there. So I know they are working on a resolution, and I think they have found the best way to do this is essentially set those things in motion, have us go out and take a look at it. We remark our utilities. Everybody else goes mark the utility and say, okay, it looks like that solution is going to work.
That's exactly what I've told them is the utilities were in the way. They didn't realize that those sound walls have to go down about 25 feet
Yes, sir.
at least to put those sound walls in. And they went down that far, and they didn't even get to 25, and they were hitting water and main lines because of the sound walls. And I said the holdup has been the sound walls, and they're like, oh, okay. So that's the verbiage I've been passing along. That's what I've been told from
Mr. Lockett
Clay
has
and
explained the
everybody.
exact same
Yes,
thing.
Mr.
And
Lockett.
essentially, there's a sequence of construction. It's real important to understand that essentially the foundations for the sound walls have to go in first.
Oh, yeah.
Before you start grading and sloping and doing everything else, because once you start building slopes and grades, the drill rigs can't get in here to do the
Well,
drilling
that
to put these in. So the sequence of construction is that's got to be first.
Correct.
The challenge is, as we've talked multiple times, when you look at these plans, there's all these nice little skinny lines that show where things goes, but those skinny lines, some of them are 3 and 4 feet wide, really, and that's where the problem came in.
Yep.
I
I appreciate
answer any other questions, if I, sir? No.
And I did pass along that because he emailed us that, and I pushed that out as many places as I could. I knew that it had to do with the sound walls. I just wanted to
Yes, sir.
see if there's any other updates.
The only thing I can tell you is
Because this agenda came out before his update did.
We recently got hit with a lot of utility locate requests along FM 1103, which means that they're in the process of re-looking at things and putting stakes out, trying to figure out what's what. So that's actually a good sign from our perspective versus hearing nothing from them for months. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Foos. All right, now moving on to 15L, discussion from council members that have attended seminars, events, or meetings. Councilman Hicks.
Well, I attended TML last week. Peggy, our City Secretary Peggy Simics, Mr. Reed, and Councilwoman Sanchez were all there. It was good. I went to my last session was about the West, where they had the explosion in 2013, and how they had built their relationships. And that's why I emphasize when we get it here, when we're live recorded and we start bashing TxDOT, the county, whoever it is, it's not a good sign. So we've got, I know that you and me and several others have built good relationships with our surrounding entities, and we've got to keep that up, because they said that was what that they relied on heavily. Was Ms. Sanchez was in that, but they relied heavily on those relationships. So, but there were several other good, like the streamlining think you went to that one. I went to one on ethics. But there's a lot of good information there this year as well. And Councilwoman Hayward was promoted to president-elect, which means, yes, yes. So she'll follow those footsteps, but in doing so, that leaves me to take up her spot as board of directors. They notified me yesterday saying that I would be the board of directors. I've got several meetings that I've got to attend outside of the city over the next several months. But I'll stay president of Region 7, but I'll also be board of directors until I think September, October next year.
Congratulations.
So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Anyone else? Katie?
We had our HOA workshop number 2 on the 30th. I forgot how many people attended. I counted. I know it was more than, I think it was more than.
Roughly 30 is what I was told, but
Yeah.
we have.
Yeah, so it was a good turnout. We had people from Cibolo. We had a couple from other cities around too, so that was nice. I tried to advertise it on like Nextdoor and other places where people would see it. This last one was about the city's role versus the HOA's role. So if you have a detention pond, who's responsible for that? If you have a pothole, who's responsible for that? If you have issues in your neighborhood, on-street parking, that kind of stuff, who's responsible for that? There were a lot of really good questions. And a lot of networking between the different HOA members who were there, which is always good because sometimes you're really insulated as a board member and we're all kind of dealing with the same thing. I also attended National Night Out at, we'll say 2.5 because I got to Charleston Park when they were packing up. But I went to National Night Out. There was a really good turnout. Our animal services was out doing their thing. They brought some happy dogs. The police were out. I left before the fire and police big stuff was at any of them. But there were a lot of people asking about opportunities for kids. And I know I've brought up Cibolo Youth Council before. We used to have it. But if we can't do a youth council, I would like to, if we can, then I would love to bring that back. If another thing that I was thinking about is our school district, when they have board meetings, they allow a student to sit up there as kind of like an honorary board member for that meeting. And it'd be really nice if we could include that in some way on our boards and commissions. Because if I was in high school and I was interested in becoming an architect or an engineer, sitting at a P&Z meeting might be interesting to me. When I was in high school, that would not have been interesting to me. But there are kids who are really interested in that kind of stuff, and it's always good to get them involved in the community. And I had 3 separate teenagers ask me about what they can do with the city, how they can get involved, how they can shadow, how they can, when I told them about Cibolo Youth Council, their eyes lit up. So I'd really like to work on bringing that back. I brought it up when I first got elected. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, because I asked for it. I asked about it in 2022, and I think at that point we just didn't have staff or kind of really anything in place for it to be available. At one of the national ads, I met a resident who is in the mental health field, and one of the things I've been working with one of the school board members on is trying to bring different types of mental health training to our area. We had 2 suicides at Steele last year within a month. Steele's had like 6 within the last 5 years or something like that. The statistics are really just kind of shocking. But I've looked at bringing in mental health first aid and some other things, and the person I met is an actual trainer of all of those things, and she's very connected with resources. So I need to get with her, but that's something that I would like to also look at bringing to the city. We have these HOA workshops. I'd like to have other things where we are the host. We don't really have to put much money or much effort into it, but other people come in, bring their trainings. We don't have to pay the trainers or anything, but we offer those services to our community. So I think that's circling back to the youth council, that kind of, those two go hand in hand with making kids feel like they have a place that's home and they don't just live here. Like they're more invested in their community and they have a life outside of just school where they could be getting bullied.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Katie. Anyone else?
I guess, Peggy, if you could also send me, because that youth council interests me quite a great deal. I know as far as the YMCA also has, one thing I learned, I think it was probably like 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I went to a YMCA gala, got to meet with, I forget what her title is, but what they do is they run a government organization for students who, let's say, want to become an attorney or maybe aspire to go into office. They actually have those courses and leading them, and they do participate in times at the Capitol and such. And I actually spoke with another council person out of New Braunfels that they're going to be starting up their youth council, and I just wanted to pick their brain on what they're doing and how they're springing that up. So that highly interests me just as well, because I know one thing is if you get the kids who are interested in, chances are they're going to be going home and they're going to be telling their parents and their families this and this is going on in the city. It's going to make their parents or families aware, and then guess what? We have more volunteers for commissions and boards, and then we really bring in the rest of the community through that involvement. So I would be highly interested in seeing that just as well.
And when we did the youth council before, we've done it twice, and both times we did it differently. So I'll get you both of those ordinances on how it was established, what was supposed to be done on it, and maybe I can kind of give you some ideas later on why it failed or whatever, and why, what happened. But it's definitely a great program, and it's something that we can bring back.
Yeah, maybe we can make it like where their big deal each year is Cibolo Fest, where like they really help. You know what I mean? Make that like their Super Bowl. You know what I mean, if you will.
You know that there is a conference, just like our TML. There is a conference for youth councils, and we did one year send our youth council to that conference. It's a 2-day conference, so there is a cost to the city and having to do. Of course, they're teenagers, so we have to have parents. Well, normally we had chaperones that went with them. There's certain things that are required, but I can get you all that information and get it over to you.
Anyone else? Okay, moving on to 15M. Discussion on items the City Council would like to see on future agendas. Bet you will, Joel. All right, we'll just email them to Peggy and Mr. Reed like we normally do. On to 15N. Discussion action on the review and confirmation of all upcoming special meetings and workshops, and scheduling the time, date, and place of additional special meetings or workshops.
Okay,
Peggy?
I do have some changes to be made. I will be sending you a new November calendar by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, so do check your emails. But there are a couple appointments that I would like to add to the November calendar, but I do need to get a couple dates from you. First of all, the first 2 weeks of November are going to be pretty crowded on your calendar, but after starting the 20th of November, you don't have anything else for the rest of the month. So those first 2 weeks are going to be pretty crowded. But on the 6th and 7th of November, that's a Monday and a Tuesday, we would like to schedule or reschedule a Council EDC joint meeting, and that's where the EDC will go over their strategic plan with the council. And so that would be done here, and really the only dates that we really have available are the 6th and 7th or the 13th of November, but the 6th and 7th would work better for everybody, for most of us. So we're just trying to, so I can plug it in and send it to you on your calendar. I'd like to see the majority, if it would be the 6th or the 7th, which would be better. The 7th would, okay, now I'll put on the 7th where we would have that joint meeting. And then the other one that I would like to schedule on a tentative basis with you for this calendar is your interviews on that November 4th, that's Saturday. But I'll tentatively put it on this calendar. And so you will have all those that information, plus the ones that I had to make changes on that your calendar is wrong. And you'll have it in your folder by 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Ms. Simics, I'd like to make a suggestion to the rest of council that we interview all three.
Well, you will go over that on the
Okay.
next council meeting and give us an idea of what you want to do at that time.
In executive session, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we'll talk about it then. All right. So that's it, Peggy? All right. Agenda item number 18, adjournment. Do I hear a motion? All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.